Are you tired of being subjected to rules and regulations that do not serve you or your family? Are you willing to go against the grain in the name of wisdom, freedom, family, honor, and trust? We provide simple solutions to complex problems. Take control of your own affairs in life. Tribe Up with Tribes and Trusts TV.
On our mission now, your time is up. Took us 400 years, had to size you up. Our word is born, no more dividing us. We now know what to do with all these tribes and trusts. I'm overseas with these tribes and trusts. Don't need no other keys but these tribes and trusts. Frequency sovereignty with these tribes and trusts. Watch me get families free with these tribes and trusts. Overstepping your boundaries, I balance you. I'm bona fide, fuck a challenger. Sent the revocation certified, fuck a manager. In control of my soul, fuck a handler. All these assets that's held for the tribes and trusts. Prophecies get fulfilled with the tribes and trusts. Heard they get out of jail with the tribe and trust. Fuck around, get you nailed for the tribe and trust. On our mission now, your time is up. Took us 400 years, had to size you up. Our word is born, no more dividing us. We now know what to do with all these tribes and trusts. I'm overseas with these tribes and trusts. Don't need no other keys but these tribes and trusts. Frequency sovereignty with these tribes and trusts. Watch me get families free with these tribes and trusts. Tribing up, we 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 tribing up with these tribes and trusts. We tribing up, 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 we tribing up with these tribes and trusts. We tribing up, put the tribe in the trust, manifesting this world with the tribe and trust. Resurrected myself with these tribes and trusts. Ancestors left us these tribes and trusts. The people is rising up, yeah. Free all the guys from cuffs. Tribes and trusts, rising up with tribes and trusts.
You heard the Mansa. Tribe up and take care of your own affairs in life. Your life depends on it. Your future depends on it. Your family depends on it. Establish your family tribes and trusts with Kiel Mansa, founder of Love Nation American Indians. If you need advanced or rush services, schedule a consultation.
Okay. So we're finna get into what is a trust. What is a trust? This is the second video in Tribes and Trusts 101. In this overview, we're going to be covering a trust. What is a trust? And we're going to be getting real deep. Without getting too deep, because there's levels to everything. We're going to go over what is a trust, some basic definitions, what's a trustee, a grantor, beneficiary, settler. We're going to go over the origin of trust law, see how the laws that we're dealing with right now, they still have that a lot of people are dealing with in these countries. They still have a lot to do with the English law, England law. Hundreds of years ago, laws are still in full effect, so it's good to see where the origin of these laws are. We're going to get into how those laws operate right now in the Commonwealth districts, how America still has some Commonwealth going on, and how the Commonwealth is still here, and countries all over the world are still operating with those same old laws. And then we're going to get into, because we're talking about trusts and the relationship of property and assets being managed on behalf of beneficiaries, right? And we'll get into that. So we're going to get into accounts, because when you're holding these assets, how do you hold assets? You hold assets in different accounts. So we're going to get into what is an account, what are different types of accounts. We're going to actually break down how the financial system in and of itself is nothing other than an accounting system. We're going to break down the different types of assets and how the assets themselves are not what's dealt with in the financial system. It is the financial assets that are pretty much dealt with. And financial assets is the documented value of these assets and the ownership rights, the obligations and interests that you have in these other assets documented. And when they're documented, they become securities and financial assets. And we're going to get into exactly what that is for individuals and people and persons and entities. All right, then we're going to get into securities, a little bit more, and what's the definition of security entitlements, financial assets, how are these things created, what are contractual rights and ownership claims, because contractual rights and ownership claims are the actual value that is associated with these financial assets, right? So what makes an asset liquid is not just people willingness to accept it. That's in the market, that's in the retail value and the market value. But we're talking about what makes the actual asset liquid is the value itself that stems from contract rights and ownership rights, and evidence in those values and evidence in that value is what makes it liquid. So we're going to get into that. We're going to get into what liquid assets really are according to law, not according to society. We're going to get into bills, notes, and what is money, because all this has to do with trust, and assets and asset management and inheritance, things of this nature. Then we're going to get into clearing and settling, because a lot of assets and financial assets people and persons and individuals and entities may have, and then they're faced with, okay, how do we go about settling these instruments? How do we go about ensuring that we can clear these different types of finances in our transactions? So we're going to get into that. Access to finance systems, because there's different types of finance systems. So we're going to get into these different types of finance systems and how the world is operating when it comes to transferring wealth, transferring value, respecting value, allowing people and persons and entities to access certain financial systems or not allowing them to access certain financial systems. What's the effect that has on the world? What's the effect that has on your peoples? Then we're going to get into, of course, discharging debts, debt extinguishment, payments, and value transfer, because at the end and the beginning of the day, when you have a trust and you have assets held within this trust, one of the benefits for the beneficiaries, as long as the trust and the trustee accepts, the trustee of the trust has the duty to handle the financial transactions and be fiscally responsible for the beneficiaries, then they are acting in accordance to their fiduciary duties. They handling their fiduciary duties. They handling their business. They handling their responsibilities that they have for other people by making sure that they properly account for the value of those beneficiaries, the assets of those beneficiaries, and discharge the debts. That's called paying bills. Paying bills in a common sense, right? Paying bills and making sure your debts are discharged and people say they owe you or they got claims against you. It's literally accounting, value transfer, utilizing these financial instruments and assets through trust and fiduciary responsibilities. And those may be your payment processes, your financial institutions, your trusts. In this situation, we're talking about tribes and trusts. So we're going to get into that whole play. And then we also going to get into currency and foreign currency a little bit and a lot more, because, when you're dealing in trust, you have your choice of law. Okay, let me document that, because that's something that's important to know too. Create a trust, just like when you establish a lot of different entities. Some entities allow you to establish your own trust, your own choice of law, depending upon where you incorporate it and how you incorporate it and whose powers you're utilizing to incorporate or associate. As long as you're utilizing your powers and the powers that's granted to you through the Most High, you got the right to choose whatever choice of law. That means what is the set of laws that's going to govern this trust? And you even got the right to create your own set of laws through your own association, your bylaws, your rules and regulations. You get to say how we gonna handle business, how we gonna account for our value, how we gonna, issue currency. What's our currency that we're gonna issue? You got the right to issue your own currency, and that currency may be foreign to other institutions and agencies, right? Also, if you are a domestic trust within, say, the United States, for instance, and you issue notes, those notes will be U.S. notes because you are a U.S. trust. A U.S. company, when a U.S. company has a debt, that's a United States debt. Okay, so it's cool to realize that and understand that as well. Debts and obligations issued by domestic entities, those debts are domestic debts. And if the domestic place is the United States of America, that's United States of America debt. So that's something I had to understand as well, that companies, organizations, and institutions, their balance sheets affect the country in which they are, a part of. So we're going to get into country, right? Because countries issue foreign currencies, and what are countries? And then you got Indian countries, right? Tribal countries, because we're talking about tribes and trusts. And yes, there are some domestic tribes and domesticated tribes that are civilized and have been managed under the affairs of the Bureau of Indian Affairs. So we're going to get into the Bureau of Indian Affairs, they land trust, right? And how they go about managing assets on behalf of the tribes and the Aboriginals and the native persons, and how did that all come about? And then we're gonna get a little bit into a allodial title versus feudal title, because we're dealing, a lot of people in these English societies, they're dealing with feudal titles. This is property rights that have come due to feuds and due to war and due to conquest. And you got this whole system of feudalism that came about due to that. These are stolen properties through the war and conquest. Then they create legal systems to justify how we're going to manage these properties in this situation. And that's why a lot of properties right now throughout America are only fee simple. Fee simple, they say that's the highest level of ownership or title that you can have in that system. And that fee simple is literally property rights given to you from a feudal system that literally is just the right of the private person to enjoy that property. Yeah, at the end of the day, there's still an overlord and there's still a noble person who has the right to tax you, take that through eminent domain and things of that nature. So it's really not technically your property, free and clear in that system, even though it says fee simple. So we're going to get into that. Also get into a little bit of homesteads, because the homestead laws still are in operation throughout the world and throughout America as well. And the homestead respects a allodial title, the allodial title of the noble family or the society which owns that property, that said property. So that's a lot. That might be a lot for one, but it is what it is. We're going to really hit this conversation. You can chop it up, check out the sections that you like. Nevertheless, going through it from the beginning to the end will give you an understanding of a lot of concepts that you probably hear a lot of people talking about right now. You might not. This might be new to you. The goal is not to provide the how-to right now. The goal is to provide the what the fuck is going on right now, because a lot of times people are presented with situations and solutions, and they may have an idea like, yeah, I want to get this property, or I want to get some assets, or I want to get some money, or I want to pay these bills. And they hear different solutions being promoted, and these solutions may in fact be true solutions. Yet when you go to engaging in these solutions, you may not be well equipped because the foundational knowledge you really didn't soak up and, marinate with long enough to really understand the situation that you're facing. So that's what we're going to do right here. We're going to get into the situation that we're facing. I got about 87,000 tabs open up And I'm literally just gonna go with the flow. I'm gonna start with the issues that we spoke of, and it's gonna be an attempt to just go through the issues, explain the situation. We get through this all. You should have an understanding of what is a tribe, what is a trust, excuse me, how trusts are utilized, the assets that could be placed into trust, what's the different relationships of the trustee, between the trustee, the beneficiary, and the grantor, what's the responsibilities of each party, what are accounts, what is the money, what is distinguishment of debts, what is a fiduciary, and how does this all relate to you and your day-to-day life. Prayerfully, those are the things that you can receive in this video right here. So let's get into some activities. What is a trust? Let's just start with what is a trust. Okay, so a trust is really a relationship. A trust is a relationship that's established when one party presents some assets to another party, or somebody gives somebody else some assets to manage in behalf of another party, right? And so you have a grantor, which can be called a settler as well. So a grantor slash settler is given the rights and the responsibility. Well, the grantor is giving rights to a trustee and giving assets to a trustee, which is the person who's going to manage these assets, this property from now on behalf of the grantor. Is going to do that for a beneficiary. Now, the grantor could be an individual, a human being, a cosmic being, spiritual being. It could be an entity, an association. The grantor or settler could be a country. It could be any type of organization or institution, right? And so can the trustee. The trustee could be a person, an individual, an institution, an association, a group of people, or whatnot. It could be all of the above, right? And then you have the beneficiaries. The beneficiaries could be a group of people, a person, like we said, all of the above. Now let's give you a basic, just so you can just to comprehend some basics of how this could operate. Hey, when we were children, we were young. I'm sure your mother or your father or someone is giving you, say, $5 and say, go to the store for me, or even in your adulthood life, they say, hey, go to the store for me. You go $10, grab me some water, right? Grab me some water and bring, appreciate it. Now that's a trust, because there's a grantor, a person who gave a trustee, they entrusted you with the $10, and that grantor in this situation, the grantor beneficiary, right? Because the grantor said, hey, go take this, go to the store, grab this, and the asset was the $10. They say, hey, get this $10, go to the store, bring back a water. Okay, so the purpose of that trust in that situation was to get the grantor, who was also the beneficiary, get him some water, and they gave the trustee the asset of the $10 to handle that. So the trustee was given all that it needed in order to handle that. The trustee was also given the rights to go get the water, and the beneficiary, once he came back with the water, right, boom, the beneficiary got the change and the beneficiary got the water, right? So the beneficiary is the one who literally is the recipient of all the value in that trust, right? And the grantor could have been like, hey, you can go and keep $1. You can keep $1 and grab you some while you there as well. So that would have been the Yeah, so the whole system just shut down dang near for like 3, 4, 5 minutes. I could have logged off, stopped this, came back. But I'm at the point in the stage in my life where I ain't even tripping. This is the second live that I've ever done on this show, on this channel, and I don't have a problem with going with the flow. I know that if you on this, you could skip that whole section and come back. And I'm realizing that the banner is saying what is a family, and I thought I switched that to what is a trust. So let me go switch that to what is a trust, and we're gonna get back to this conversation part in the 17-minute break. You see what I'm saying? Part in the 17-minute break. But we are back, and right now, like I say, we finna get into what is a trust. We're gonna get into what is a trust. Gave an example about going to the store and a trust relationship was established to get some water. You feel what I'm saying? So now we're gonna share the screen so y'all can see these 85,000 tabs I got ready for y'all. All right. So let's look at, according to the United States Code, what a trust is from its technical terms. And let's keep on moving on, y'all, so we can get into the depthness of this. Right? So a trust, as it says, is a form of division of property rights. So it's dividing property rights. It's all about property rights, asset rights, and a fiduciary relationship. So it's division of property rights and a fiduciary relationship. Remember, a fiduciary relationship, this is a person who has the responsibility to handle in business on your behalf. That's a fiduciary. The relationship is the relationship you got with the fiduciary, right? And a fiduciary gets a power of attorney to some degree, right? In which ownership of an asset goes to a third party known as a trustee. So the trustee technically owns the property. The grantor no longer owns it. The beneficiary doesn't own it while the trustee has it. And the beneficial enjoyment goes to the beneficiary. So the beneficial enjoyment of the property is the beneficiary. So which means who can experience the property and get the blessings from the property. If you want to think about blessings as a word, who can get the value from the property? Who's going to be the person experiencing in that initial situation? Who's going to get the chips? The beneficiary, right? I mean, who's going to get the water? The beneficiary. The person who transfers the property into the trust is the grantor and the settler, as we said. The grantor, the settler is the person who gave you that $10. The trust is a right. So the trust is a right enforceable in equity to the beneficial enjoyment of property held by another party who actually holds legal title. So legal title is for the trustee. Yet that legal title is held for the benefit of a beneficiary. So when you say, hey, I got the title, I got the legal title. Okay, you might got the legal title. That's a trustee type title. Who has the beneficiary ownership? Who's the beneficiary? Right? Who's the person for whom you have that legal title? And that's deep. A lot of people just look to get the title. We're gonna keep going. The property held may itself be called a trust. So the property may be called a trust. Okay, if it's about money specifically, especially like a trust fund. So you set up a trust fund and you're perceiving that the trust, the relationship or the rights is actually the money. It's just a term. Yet the formation of a trust, it requires a few things, right? You got to have a settler, which is the owner, the initial owner of the assets. Once the assets are put into trust, then the trustee becomes the owner, okay? For all intents purposes, it has the legal title. You have to have an intent and a capacity to grant the property rights, right? So it has to have intent and capacity. So the person who's the grantor has to have the intention to grant it and has to have the capacity to grant it, okay? There are some trusts that's operating right now in the world, throughout the world, where the settler or the grantor did not have the intention to give the property and did not have the capacity, wasn't even in the capacity to give, yet that trust is still moving around. So that makes that trust that could be invalidated, okay? and those assets could be dealt with in a different way if addressed. Okay, if someone comes and claims their rights because of that situation, right? Then you have a trustee. Every trust got to have a trustee, as we said. That's the person who holds and administers the assets. Administer, key. That's a key word. Administer. A lot of administrations, government administrations, are just administering rights, administering property, managing that for the benefit of beneficiaries. Okay, and those beneficiaries are the people who really got the beneficial ownership, even though the trustee or the administrator or the government agency may have what? The legal title, right? It got to be some type of assets if you're talking about a trust. It got to go through some type of legal formalities. This is according to the United States Code, right? So the legal formalities, it says, should be in compliance with the laws of that jurisdiction. So you got many jurisdictions. A jurisdiction is area of governance, an area of operation that's governed by a sovereign. So you got a ruler or a monarch or the head of a state or whomever a group of people say is managing and overseeing this thing, right? Those persons establish a jurisdiction. The jurisdiction could be land. A jurisdiction could be a group of businesses. If you're in an association or a union, it could be a business association, and you're in a jurisdiction under that association, right? So when you start that trust, you just got to be in compliance with whatever jurisdiction that you are a part of. It could be, the jurisdiction may say it has to be written to be lawful. It has to be signed to be lawful. It has to be notarized to be lawful. So what you will notice is a lot of jurisdictions, a lot of places throughout the world, they have different requirements for what has to happen for that trust to be legal in its jurisdiction. A trustee has fiduciary duties to perform in the interest of the beneficiary. So trustees have to operate in the best interest of fiduciaries, and these are laws that consistently get upheld in statutory laws as well. So these are equitable laws. As we're going to learn a little bit later, this is all coming from some English law type of operations, which got their laws from even a more ancient society, right? Nevertheless, the trustee has fiduciary duties. The trustee and beneficiary usually cannot be the same person. Usually, according to the laws of the jurisdiction. You got some jurisdictions that say, hey, the grantor could be the trustee and a beneficiary. Yeah, there's some places where I could give some property to myself to manage for myself. And that's some shit. That's some type of places where you can do that. And then, well, that happens all day in your daily life if you really think about it. Honestly, the trust assets may not be transferred to the trustee contemporaneously with the signing of a trust agreement. I don't know what contemporaneously means. And the person that I am, I'm going to interrupt this educational ceremony to find out. I know what expenditure means. I got this up just for us to check that out. Contemporaneously, existing, occurring, or originating during the same time. So simultaneously, it's a synonym. Social and political events were contemporaneous with each other. So like simultaneous, it's a synonym. All right, so we on trust. So a trust assets may not be transferred to the trustee with the signing of a trust instrument. They can be transferred even after the death of a settlor. That doesn't really sound too cool to me. If contemporaneously means simultaneously, is saying that a trust assets can't be transferred, so I can't give somebody the assets while I'm signing the trust instrument. I think something's wrong with that. I ain't gonna lie. Honestly, I'm perceiving that's a typo. That's just me. All right, but trust, because at the end of the day, if I got some assets and I'm like, okay, cool, bet I want you to manage this on behalf of these beneficiary. Here go the assets, and I'm gonna sign the contract. Doesn't seem like anything unlawful to me, or doesn't seem like anything strange to me. So anyway. All right, that's what a trust is, though. All right, now we got the understanding of the grantor, the beneficiary, and the trustee. We have a basic explanation. Where did all these laws come from, right? Where did all these laws come from? We're dealing with some English laws, right? And before we do that though, I ain't gonna rush. We're gonna get into some deep shit here. We're gonna talk about first different situations when people see in our life right now, and a lot of people's lives that you may witness, you got government agencies, you got banks, right? Governments, banks, police systems, and these parties, militaries, you got a lot of forceful, authoritative, seemingly authoritative agencies claiming to have extreme ownership of properties, including yourself as a person, right? So, they say they own you or own the rights over you or your children and things of this nature. So that means that in some way, shape, or form in their mind, or in some contract somewhere, they're perceiving that they got the explicit contract, the express contract or implied contract to be able to do such a thing, right? So there are two types of trust. You have express trust and you have implied trust. So a trust could be expressed and it could be implied. And let's look at that a little bit. What's an express trust? An express trust is an intentional trust, right? Is any trust created by a settler, volitionally by a settler, known as a grantor or a truster, right? In express terms, volitionally is like through his own volition, with his own energy, willingly, right? In express terms, so it's expressly, clearly laid out what is the terms, what I need you to do, how I'm gonna have you do this as the trustee, and for whom you're doing this. It's usually in writing. It could be either private or public. The opposite of an express trust in legal terms is an implied trust. So there could be a trust relationship set up that's only that's implied and carried out, therefore it's actually real. So implied circumstances, conduct, or statements which suggest the authority to act, warranty, promise, or consent, among other things, rather than stating directly, are considered to be implied. So someone could, or entities, there could be certain assumptions or certain force happening, and you just perceive that this person has certain authority, or you could be a person who has such a awareness or energy about them that's perceived that you have certain authority to handle things on behalf of other people or on behalf of situations. And then that's like an implied trustee situation. Or agencies, they have implied authority, which means they're an agent and they're assuming to be acting on behalf of a principal. And that assumption could be either true or not. So you can have some implied contracts where you have an agency or an institution or a person that's acting as if they're operating on behalf of the government or behalf of you or behalf of a third party. And it's implied, it's not expressed or written or reality, or even if it's expressed or written, it may be some bogus ass documents, let's just say. Nevertheless, if the people operate as if that is real, it's implied, and now it becomes an implied trust, it's carried out and is operational just as much as an express trust. Okay, so you got express trust, you got implied trusts, right? You have these things. Let's look at what estates and entrust are, because a lot of times we're dealing with estates and we're dealing with trust when we're talking about families, tribes, the way we live in. And now we're finna get into the origin of this trust law as well, because a lot of this came from English law. So estates and trusts. During the early 1500s in England, right? See, we're talking about England already, because at the end of the day, we're dealing with a lot of English law. If you study American law, you're studying English, Dutch, Britain, France law, Germany law, because all of these countries collectively came together in their interest to colonize the aboriginals of the Americas. Let's just say that, and of many other places, creating these commonwealths. Estates and trusts. During the early 1500s in England, landowners found it advantageous to convey the legal title of their land to third parties, right, while retaining the benefits of ownership. Okay, so landowners, they own the property, they want to give somebody else the legal title, which is a trustee. As we just seen, a trustee can get the legal title to their land while they want to keep the benefits of ownership. They want to remain the beneficiary, right? They got the benefits of the ownership without the legal title, right? They give the responsibility to another person to handle and administer the property, yet they want to maintain the benefits. Because they were not the real owners of the land and wealth was primarily measured by the amount of land owned, they were immune from creditors and may have absolved themselves from some feudal obligations. Okay, while feudal concerns no longer exist and wealth is held in many forms other than land, like stocks, bonds, and accounts, the idea of placing property in third-party hands for the benefit of another has survived and prospered. This is the idea of trust. Now, that's saying a lot. It's saying a lot because they're acknowledging that this is a feudal system, which is a system of feuds. System of feuds is war, conquest. So it's a system that is in play due to the feudal system. The feudal system stems from the doctrine of discovery, which stems from the Pope stating that they got the right to go take over anybody's land and even the people and run them however they choose to, because they're not Christians. Let's just say they're not getting down with the Pope's law, right? Now, at the end of the day, that sounds like what it is. It's an attempt to take over, right? And through that attempt to take over, it had to legalize a lot of the procedures. So to legalize, to make them legal, came up with this whole system, this whole common law feudal system. And this, well, not necessarily the common law system, but the feudal system, the feudal property ownership system. And in that system, right, ownership of property is approved by the noble and or the monarch. And the monarch gives the grant to the noble, and the noble now has the property, and or the king got the property to manage as he sees fit, and has his households, as we study and realize these is like a medieval type of households, so they can manage things on behalf of their heirs, right? And yeah, it's good to see here that it says because they were not the real owners of the land and wealth was primarily measured by the amount of land owned. So wealth was measured by the amount of land owned, but they weren't the real owners. They were immune from creditors and they have absolved themselves from some feudal obligations. So there were some feudal obligations that you have to have, and that's obligations due to war. You got to give to Caesar what Caesar, shall they say, right? And that's the monarch saying, okay, we need X, Y, and Z. Okay, we need you to do X, we need you to do Y, we need to do Z. They saying that they was trying to get rid of their feudal responsibilities, right? They were trying to get rid of the responsibilities that they have to the monarch, right? By putting this property in trust, by saying, hey, I don't own it, this trustee owns it, so I'm getting rid of the feudal concerns, but I still got the wealth. You see what I'm saying? That was the reason for these trusts. And they say that's the idea of the trust, right? So generally a trust is a right. It's the right in property that's held in a fiduciary relationship by one party for the benefit of the other. We stated that. So that is pretty interesting. And this has to do with estates and estate planning too. So let's think about what estate planning is, because it's like, say you a noble. Say you a noble or a king. A king isn't always necessarily the monarch, because you have a monarch and there could be many kings managing different territories, and those kings are like noblemen. And then under their households, many households, you got slave households. Okay, so let's check out what estate planning is. Estate planning is the process by which individual or family arranges the transfer of assets in anticipation of death. Okay, an estate plan aims to preserve the maximum amount of wealth possible for the intended beneficiaries and flexibility for the individual prior to death. A major concern for drafters of estate plans is federal and state tax law. So what is they saying here? They're saying estate planning is essentially, in estating is like, okay, these bodies, these vessels may not survive indefinitely throughout this 3D dimension. And knowing that, it's like, okay, even while I'm here, I got assets, I'm getting shit popping or whatnot, you know, and you want to hand those properties down. You want to make sure that that property is still being utilized in a way that you see fit, right? To either your heirs or to some other companies, or for a specific purpose that you see fit, right? So in order to do that, you create these estates and you got some state planning. That's what that's all about, right? So we realize that this is some English law. And how are we right now? Say you in the United States of America, or you in Jamaica, or you the Caribbeans, you in Brazil, or you in India or Kenya or all these different countries. Say you in a different country. It's like, why does this guy? How does this have anything to do with me today? Because that's some English law. That shit was in the 1500s. Well, I'm here to say that, hey, law is law, and as long as law is upheld and it maintains and it is incorporated and adopted into even new laws, then it is still remains. As a matter of fact, I'm here to show you that the Commonwealth still remains. Let's check that out. Let's see what's up with this thing that we call a Commonwealth in England, right? Okay, where we got this at here. Because a lot of people perceive that the Commonwealth is no longer in existence, and they perceive that all of that stuff that happened in the 1500s, 1400s, and whatnot, they say that ain't got nothing to do with reality right now. But I'm here to say that that is not the truth. Can we get into something here? So yeah, let's look. Before we look there, I find it pretty interesting that where you go, you find different information, right? I find it interesting that in different locations, they provide different information, especially on this topic of Commonwealth, right? And you will find a lot of different pieces of information. For instance, say you look right now at countries under the British rule. So I just Googled countries under the British rule, right? It's saying which are still under the British rule, because the Commonwealth are countries under the British rule, and right now it's listing, what is this, 3, 6, 9, 12, 15, 18, 19, 21, 22, 23. There's 24 countries just with a regular Google search. Not saying that this is the information that is the most authoritative. Yeah, we see 21s. We see 21 countries that's sitting right there that's saying it's part of the English rule. If you look on Wikipedia, okay, so this is 21 right there. They clearly showing in just as far as images. But then you look at Wikipedia, right? And Wikipedia is trying to say it's 15. Commonwealth realm is a sovereign state. What is Commonwealth? It's a sovereign state within the Commonwealth that has Charles III as its monarch and ceremonial head of state. He's a ceremonial head of state, by the way. We don't want to get too deep into that. He's not the actual hereditary head of state. Okay, we don't want to get into that too deep. All of the realms are independent of the other. So they independent, like America fought for its independence, okay, though one person. So they're independent of each other, though it's still one person. It's still the Commonwealth. It's still one. So that's some way for you to understand that there could be an independent country. You could be an independent country and still be a part of the Commonwealth. You could fight for your independence. That means your right to operate and move about how you see fit, but you still, boom, tapped in and a part of the Commonwealth. So that's very important. And I'm here to say that the United States of America, though they are independent, they are still part of the Commonwealth. And so is many other places, even though they don't try to make it clearly seem like that. So as we've seen, the Google search showed 21. You go into Wikipedia, they talking about these 15. But then also, as of 2024, there are 15 Commonwealth realms and the United Kingdom, while the Commonwealth of Nations, so you got Commonwealth realms, but then you got Commonwealth of Nations, and you got 56 independent members. Only these 15 have Charles III as the head of state. He is also head of the Commonwealth, a non-constitutional role. So this is deep. This is deep. You got 56 independent member states, and of them, only 15 are saying Charles III is the head of our state. So these independent states, they have their own head of state, yet they still part of the Commonwealth. And who are these 56? So you can go to the commonwealth.org. It's right here for you. And you can see, okay, who we are, what we do to member countries. Just check out the member countries of this Commonwealth Association, right? So the Commonwealth, 56 countries, even to this day, right? And they stating 15 of them have King George III, that's currently sitting there as King George. He's not the hereditary King George. He's a ceremonial King George, as it states, ceremonial provisional governments. We'll get into that. These are provisional governments, y'all, that's just holding down the crown until the royals come in town. Let's just say that. All right, so it's 56 independent countries making up the Commonwealth in Africa, Asia, the Americas, Europe, and the Pacific. So they list out the countries here throughout Africa: Botswana, Cameroon, Gabon, I might have mispronounced that, the Gambia, Ghana, Kenya, and many more countries, including Malawi, which my ex-wife is a Malawi chick who left a nigga a while ago. Asia, got Caribbean and Americas, Europe, Pacific. You know, you got these countries. These are the countries that's clearly, without a shadow of a doubt, listed as being a part of the Commonwealth, right? Now, nowhere on that list did we see the United States of America. So how does this have anything to do still with the United States of America? I'm here to say, even though the United States of America wasn't listed there, the United States of America is still part of this Commonwealth, and let's give some evidence as to why, right? So, got to see how this government is organized. And let's take a quick Google search and check out what's the King's Bench. The King's Bench, Pennsylvania, right? In Pennsylvania, King Bench powers refers to an English common law authority. So it's the common law authority from the English law that is, which the General Assembly recognizes and explicitly bestowed in 1722 on the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania. So the General Assembly recognized the English common law as the authority, the common law authority. Now that's the same law that the Commonwealth used. The Commonwealth Association is under the English common law. So Pennsylvania in 1722, which is before 1766, okay, or 1776, it's before the formation of New Jersey, and it's before the formation of the United States of America, right? Yet the King's Bench was established on the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania. So the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania has the legal and supervisory aspects of the court system in the English colony. So the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania is overseeing the legal and supervisory aspects of the court system in this colony of the United States of America on behalf of the crown, right? And it clearly states that. And let's just give a very, is it still operational now? Yeah, Meek Mill used this power. Meek Mill, King's Bench. Okay, so it shows in freeing Meek Mill, justices flex rarely use King's Bench muscle. Okay, so what is this? It's a unique power, right? So it's saying it was quoted in this law.com legal article in regards to the King's Bench power. It's a unique power. It's very discretionary. Okay, it's very discretionary. The justices have always been very cautious not to overuse it. You know, you're cautious not to overuse it. Nevertheless, it is here. That's the justices. You know what I'm saying? They don't utilize that power all the time, which means they don't usurp and overthrow the United States of America's judgments, you know, their independent judgments from their independent courts all the time, even though it's possible to say, hey, man, the King's Bench, we got authority over these courts. Let's just overrule whatever the fuck they was talking about. And that's literally the hierarchy of the courts. The Supreme Court of Pennsylvania still has the King's Bench powers, right? And it states here, The king's bench power is reserved for very select and significant cases that must be handled extremely quickly. At least that's how the bar association attorneys are utilizing the power. Nevertheless, the power is here. Okay, the bar association attorneys they typically state that they utilizing that power only on very select situations where you got to handle something extremely quickly, right? Over the past 2 years, the state Supreme Court has denied 57 petitions and granted only 2. Among those that have been denied, there's been a whole bunch of shit, right? But they trying to say here that it was granted on behalf of Meek Mill. Okay, they saying in 2017 they granted it. The request lodged by leading members of the Senate, including Senator Joseph Jefferson, who sought to delay the impact of a court's decision, okay, about slot machines, right? So that was one time in 2017 that they used it. They saying the only other King's Bench petition that has been successful over the past 2 years was a petition filed last month by rapper Meek Mill. And again, this was written a while ago in April 27, 2018. But they saying Meek Mill petition was successful. On Tuesday, the court, acting under its King's Bench jurisdiction, so the court took down its United States jurisdiction. The court like, hey, we ain't operating as the United States. We're going to operate under this common law English system right here. We're going to utilize our King's Bench jurisdiction authority and grant Meek Mill his request to be let out on bail in order that the trial judge expedite the case, which has come under national scrutiny, okay, as an example of need for criminal justice reform. So they say in this case, the Meek Mill case was stirred up a fuss and was given a whole bunch of attention to the degree to whereas Supreme Court, his attorney went to the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania because they know what's up. And they say, hey, we're going to need y'all to handle this because, you know what I'm saying, U.S. ain't on it. We're going to need you to handle this situation. Let the brother get out on bail because the criminal system is on some bullshit, basically. And how do you know that this is still operational in other places? Because, I mean, that's Meek Mill. You can look Vibes Cartel. Vibes Cartel. And you got to see, what is we talking about here? We're talking about the English system, the common law system, the system of trust. And why is there even a third-party government that you're going to get something? Because that's a trustee relationship. You must be considered a ward of the state or something, or they got some type of power over you. You understand? For that to even be able to occur. You understand? You go into their courts and their judge, then their judges must have some type of power and authority over you, okay, to some degree. So before we look at this privacy council stuff, let's see real quick. What a ward of the state is. Just a little simple definition here. Okay. A ward or ward of the state shall mean a minor. They trying to say a minor, and they put under parentheses under the age of 18 years, who is under the legal custody of a state or a subdivision of the state. So they say you're a ward of the state if you're a minor, period. Let's looking though, they saying typically only those under the age of 18. But if you haven't claimed your age of majority, we're here to tell you that you still considered a minor. Because, okay, the age of majority, also known as the legal age, is a threshold to where you become adulthood, right? Okay? It's when you become an adulthood, and it's majority. So you can tell that when you think of, they just switched up a bunch of stuff in society to make the public perceive that minority is about how many people in your ethnicity are represented to the government, when minority, the opposite of minority is majority. And this is all about your age, and this is all about your rights. You see what I'm saying? Because when you're considered a minor, the state has the administrative power over you. And if they got the administrative power of you, that's evidently a trustee relationship. They got the right to handle things on your behalf. You're the beneficiary. the state is the trustee to your rights, right? Now, when you become at the age of majority, you have to let them know. You have to let them know that you're no longer a minor. If you have not let them know that you're at the age of majority, then they're going to be treating you like you're still a minor. That's something that people are witnessing every day. They're witnessing people treat them like a minor. Okay. And let's move on to this because we want to. And what's beneficial is a lot of benefits once you let people know that you're at the age of majority. You get the right to handle your own affairs, things of that nature. Let's look at Vybz Kartel situation. And how is this relevant? This is relevant because, we just went over some information that is stated that we have the Commonwealth. They said that there's 56 countries in the Commonwealth, right? And you can look here and you can see that is Jamaica on it? Yeah. Caribbean and Americas. You can see Jamaica is listed there clearly. For some reason, you don't see the United States of America. But we just saw how Pennsylvania is upholding the common law system through their courts that has the bench power. And that's common law powers. And that's how they enforce those types of laws. Jamaica is clearly a part of the Commonwealth. So Jamaica wanted to overturn some laws, right? Due to this Vybz Kartel situation. And what happened? Let's look here and see. So Jamaica courts got overturned by the Privy Council is what we're about to show. The UK's Privy Council, which is similar to some King Bench operations in America, right? So you got the Privy Council quashed Jamaica's artist Vybz Kartel murder conviction on Thursday, sending the case to a lower case court to decide whether to retry the dancehall icon. So they quashed the conviction, the UK Privy Council. So evidently the Privy Council has the power over that Jamaican court, right? And just like in America, okay, Meek Mill was sentenced, and the court said that he can't get no bail. But evidently, the Privy Council, the bench's court, which is common law in Pennsylvania, the same state, they took down Pennsylvania law and said, okay, we're gonna start operating under the bench, the common law courts of England, and we're gonna give you the rights to do that under there. And it affected a United States of America citizen. So how is that? How is that a United States of America citizen was still affected by laws, English laws? Because English law is United States law, okay? And United States of America, though independent, they still operating under the rules and the regulations of the common law system of England, just like Commonwealth countries, okay? And that's just a good point to overstand. So now we're talking about trust, though, right? And that's showing you how the government is in a trust relationship with the people, right? The government is the trustee, and the government is the trustee as long all governments are trustees, okay? All governments are trustees. When you're a sovereign, or say you're a family and you set up your own society, you create your government to be trustee, to administer things, to administer rights, to administer properties on behalf of the beneficiaries in that nation or that society, right? That's how it's set up. Now, if you're in a situation and you're like, hey, I don't necessarily want the government to manage things on my behalf. We can manage things on our own behalf. That may be a reason why you set up your trust and you set up the way that it's going to be governed, and you set up your own trustee and you give the trustee the power to manage your operations on your behalf. And that, you show that you are in the age of majority. You are the majority. You are not a minor. You're not a ward of the state. You're not to be managed by the government or by the state. You are to be managed your own affairs by your agency that you set up, or by your family members that you put in that position, or by yourself if you make yourself the trustee. Okay, that is an actual thing. That is something that you can do. Now, trust has to do with these assets. So let's look at assets, okay, because it's all about managing these assets. And remember, though, again, just to wrap up the point about this English law being the law, and this English law is really Anglo-American law, okay? Anglo-American law. The United States was founded on the principles of English law. let's just put this here real quick and move on to what assets are. Okay, what is property? What is assets? Because the trust is all about, is there to manage the assets for beneficiaries. Assets could be land. We're gonna get into what assets is and what they can be. Yeah, let's just wrap up that point. The United States was founded on the principles of English common law. The Thurgood Marshall State Law Library reflects this tradition and whatnot. Okay, although current acquisitions in this area appear primarily online, they got access to information everywhere. This was not the source that I'm looking to see. Okay, can we get, okay, here we go. Okay, we got Britannica and we have a whole PDF. I'm sure I got it in one of these amazing tabs here, the way I'm operating. But let's just look in here real quick. Common law is a body of customary law. Now that's deep right now. It's already saying common law is customary law. And what is customary law? Customary law is customs. It's upholding the customs of a system, customs of a people, the culture of a people. And they saying common law is the culture of Anglo-Saxons or Anglo-Americans. Okay, so Anglo-American law is England law. That's deep. We're gonna check that out too. But common law, the body of customary law based upon judicial decisions and embodied in reports of decided cases that has been administered in the common law courts of England since the Middle Ages. Okay, so it's been operating since the Middle Ages. Okay, from it has evolved the type of legal system now found also in the United States and in most of member states of the Commonwealth. So they're putting a synonym. They're showing you how the United States and the Commonwealth countries are synonym because they're both operating under the common law, which is a body of customary law that's based upon judicial decisions, basically from England. And this has a lot to do with Anglo-Saxons, Anglo-Americans, Anglo-British. That's very real, okay? And just do a little brief introduction and move on. Y'all can check this out, the Legal Methods Orientation, 1991, brief introduction to the Anglo-American legal system. All right. Okay. Let's check it out from here. For present purposes, it may be enough to say that by the law we mean the collection of rules, standards, and principles, compliance with which is enforced by the state. So you got rules, principles, and standards that's enforced by the state. Now, for the state to be enforcing something upon you, that means the state is your government. For the state to be your government, you have to be a citizen of that state or property of that state or a company of that state. Now, your state could be your society, your group of beings, your sovereign group of beings. There is some sovereign beings all around this world. Evidently, or states would not exist. Okay, legal method is a tradition established by which lawyers and judges find, interpret, and apply the law. All right. In the Anglo-American system, so this is an Anglo-American system. You got Anglo-Saxons, Anglo-Normans, Anglo-American system is very substantial body of law, has its origin in the common law systems, right? This is what they're showing here. One of the most important jobs of the legal system is the officially sanctioned settlement of disputes, whether between individuals or between individuals in some arm of government. Because there's a lot of disputes that could come about once people have certain knowledge, some people have certain claims, people are attempting to get certain books balanced or debts taken care of. I know people talk about reparations a lot. At the same time, you know, reparations, restoration, balancing the books. We're going to see here later how trust and accounting and all accounting, banking is all accounting. Okay, we're talking about assets and value here, right? So as you can see, if you keep on doing research, okay, after the Normans conquered England in 1066, they began to establish a centralized government superimposed on the pre-existing local government structures. So they take centralized government and superimpose it over pre-existing local government structures. Exactly what happened around here throughout Americas, throughout most Commonwealth colonized places. That means there's a local governance system that's already operation, and they just take their centralized government and superimpose it, okay, on the local government structures to make these superimposed government structures superior to these local governments that seemingly have independence. Nevertheless, the superimposed federal government can come down on them in specific situations where they see fit, okay? While other countries were still decentralized feudal systems, England was gradually being pulled together under the leadership of a long line of strong kings, okay? They're saying other countries were decentralized feudal systems. It's like, okay, you got feuds happening, it's okay, they get squashed, and the governments are decentralized, they're gonna handle their shit, how they handle their shit, deal with their beefs, how they deal with their beefs. There's no federal centralized power over them, okay? That's the history of that, okay? Let's move on because there's a lot to cover. Let's talk about assets here. What are assets? What are some types of assets and things of that nature, okay? So real quick, this is a generalization. This is not the end all be all as far as this article. We're talking about, this is an article in the corporate finance institution.com. We're talking about what are some main types of assets, right? They say an asset is a resource owned or controlled by an individual, corporation, or government with the expectation that it will generate a positive economic benefit. So that's these people checking out assets, and their definition is all surrounding about economic benefits. I'm here to say that an asset is anything, things being person, places, people, ideas, anything experienced, any element, any frequency, any vibe that has value. Value is in the eye of the beholder and could be perceived. As soon as it's documented value, you got a security on your hands. And that security can become a financial asset. Okay, the security and your interest in that security is a security entitlement. You document that security entitlement, then that is a financial asset once you deposit that. Literally, that's what I'm here to say. Assets are anything, any galactical assets, spiritual asset, digital asset, physical asset. These are things that can be distinguished from other things, right? And these are ideas, yet they are things, nevertheless. So you have these things, you can distinguish them from another thing. You can document its value, you can assess its value, its economic value can be assessed according to other values. For instance, you can say something has spiritual value, which means it makes me feel love. It makes me feel great. It gives me a connection to the cosmos or whatnot. So that may be its value to you. Then if someone say, hey, what's the economic value if you had to assess that? Well, you could. It's an imagination. It's a theory. It's a principle that things could have economic value. I mean, how many dollars is that worth? So you say, okay, for instance, a hug. That hug made me feel real good, man. It changed my day. Well, how many dollars would that hug be worth? And it's an idea. You try to put a sense to it, and say, okay, man, that would have been worth $1 million because it really, 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 really made me feel really good. And it pumped me up. And I was going to do some bad stuff, and now I'm going to do some good stuff, right? So you can assess it and say it's worth $100. If you documented that, then that is a security. Okay? And I'm here to say that security, the rights that you have to that security is valuable. And those rights are assets as well. Those rights can be assessed. You assess the value at $1 million, document that. That's a security that document can be presented or given to a trust or put it in trust to manage, to establish an account. And that document in of itself is a security. The entitlement, you have a security entitlement. You document that you got rights in to certain things. And once that security entitlement is deposited, it's now a financial asset. Now you got a financial asset, and the financial assets could be utilized as collateral to receive value, or could be utilized to pay things themselves. Okay, that's the thing you got, and that's what we're dealing with in this world. We're dealing with what I'm here to say in trust. We're dealing with the ability to literally, like magic, transform and transmutate certain value into other value. I call it value engineering. They got a different way of looking at it, but I say it's value engineering because you take in value. It could be at all value. From my way of looking at life, stems from the cosmos, stems from the grand creator, the divine, right? It's all cosmic value, and then it can turn to spiritual value. The spiritual value is as it relates to the spiritual beings, or the beings that have spiritual souls is operating throughout these physical bodies. Okay, then we say digital value is value that is being put upon these digital platforms that we utilize, and then, you know what I'm saying, these PDFs, DVDs, and assets and things of this nature, right? Digital value, data, and then physical value, right? And this is just a concept. These are concepts to explain energy and value. Yet the physical assets would be things that you can tangibly touch and sense with your physicalities, right? So people, hands, right? You got pots, pans, clothes, you know what I'm saying? You got land, minerals, commodities, things of this nature. These are all physical assets. So looking at the system that we operate with Love Nation, that I operate with, you got galactical assets, spiritual assets, physical assets, and digital assets. These assets could all be documented, and documented then becomes a security. And securities, once the entitlement is registered and deposited into an account to be managed, then that security and title becomes a financial asset. And these are not, and then once it's a financial asset, that's something that can be utilized to discharge a debt, extinguish a debt, be utilized as payment. It can be utilized to transfer value. It could also be utilized as collateral to receive other forms of value, like a loan or lines of credit or promissory notes issued by the other countries, which is called money. That's literally the game. That's literally the financial system. That's literally it, period. Now you got different types of currency, different types of money. This money may be domestic or foreign. It's domestic in the sense where this is currency issued from within a jurisdiction, any given jurisdiction. And it's foreign if it's currency issued from external jurisdiction. And that's all a matter of perspective, because the jurisdiction could be your jurisdiction, your private jurisdiction, your family's jurisdiction, the United States jurisdiction, Brazil's jurisdiction, India's jurisdiction, China's jurisdiction, Illinois' jurisdiction, the county jurisdiction. These are all different jurisdictions, right? So what's domestic is relevant and what's foreign is relevant. Now, that was me. That was a cold-blooded 1 minute explanation for those who know, who got eyes to see and ears to hear. Nevertheless, we probably still finna spend about an hour or so or two just breaking down what I just said, because it gets real. We're talking about trust, and now we're getting into assets, what are assets and how are these assets managed and administered in these different trusts, right? So let's take a look at this article and then keep moving on about some types of assets. So these are some examples of assets: cash and cash equivalents, accounts receivables, inventory, investments, property, plant and equipment, vehicles, furniture, patents, which are intangible assets, okay, property of an asset. There are three key properties of an asset. Assets have ownership properties, so you can own assets. Assets have economic value. They got a dollar value to them. So assets have economic value and can be exchanged or sold. Now, the exchanging and selling of the asset and the economic value of the asset is really the money game. If we talk about money and paying things and buying things off. But as we know, we want to find out that this is economic value. This is just a measurement. This isn't what most people think. The asset isn't economic value, but the asset has economic value. And as an economic value is an idea, y'all. It's an idea that's attempting to measure the value of something so that it could be beneficial for trading and things of that nature, right? So you think about economic value as a measurement, like I said, a measurement of the benefit derived from a good or service to an individual or company. So it could be a measurement of a benefit derived from a good or service, or the benefit that could be derived from a security, or the benefit that could be derived from an asset, right? So that's what we're here to say. And it's value is, you know, for something to have economic value, all things have economic value, literally. all things have economic value. Now, how much economic value is based on the assessment. So an assessments could be done many ways, right? Assessment of value means, okay, it's a way of informing. I don't know, what is they talking about? I'm not fucking with that, right? Okay. Let's check out. Nah. Okay. Let's check out asset valuation real quick. I'm just here to tell you, asset valuation is a process from which you determine the economic value of something. And you can come up with your own valuation methods and valuation matrices. Even though throughout this world, a lot of people create standards for valuation and charts for valuation according to their systems. That's cool. But asset valuation literally is just the process of determining the fair market value or the present value of an asset. Okay, using book values, absolute valuation models like discounted cash flow analysis, option pricing models, or comparables. Or you could come up with your own valuation methods. You could use associated value. You can say, okay, this value is similar to this value, or this asset is similar to this asset, so the values are the same. Okay, that's how you can determine the value. You can determine it based upon whatever system that you choose to use. The cost method is, they say, the simplest form of asset value based valuation. That means you can see an asset is based on how much it costs to produce this asset, right? How much did it cost to produce this asset? And that's how we determine how much the asset is worth. Okay. You can have comparable valuations, meaning there's a comparable asset. This asset is like this asset. And because that asset is worth that, then that's the valuation of this asset. So you got different methods of evaluating the asset. You can have the because I say so method, like when you were young, right? And you ask the parent, why is something? You say, because I say it so. Why is this the rule? Because I said so. Hey, who is to say in your jurisdiction you can't have a because I say it so asset valuation method? Okay, that's real. Now, if you are a minor or a subject to another jurisdiction and they say you can't utilize the because I said so asset valuation method, you can't utilize that because I said so asset valuation method. Okay, and you got internationally accepted valuation methods because you got different financial systems, right? So you got the IFRS valuation method, and it's stating that price would be received to sell an asset. Hold on. Fair value as defined by the IFRS is the price that would be received to sell an asset or paid to transfer a liability in an orderly transaction between market participants at a measured date. Okay, so that's something to think about, right? So, and what we're talking about is the fact that assets can be evaluated any way that the system allows it to be evaluated, or any system you come up with for evaluating an asset you could utilize. And based upon what system you're in, sometimes you got to utilize specific types of valuation methods because you're in a certain system. Look, y'all, why am I even on this subject? I remember there was a time in my life where for some reason, in some days you feel worthless. Sometimes I felt worthless because the economic value, I didn't seem to be able to come up with any economics to make the trades and transactions that I wanted in life. So sometimes I felt worthless. And I knew I wasn't worthless, though. I knew I had a lot of value. I knew I was worth a lot. I knew I had a lot of value. I knew I had a lot to offer. And I was like, man, why is it that these United States dollars, it seem like the only thing in the world that people want to accept from me, and these things is not that easy all the time to get. And I also started researching. And I found the difference between money accounts and money of exchange. And I realized that money of accounts is way more money of accounts than money of exchange. And I looked at money of accounts and realized that money of accounts, there's so many different assets listed in the money of accounts that can be listed in money of accounts. Because I'm like, I know I got some assets. I started to research about negotiable instruments and seeing that you got stocks, bonds, promissory notes. I wanted to see what's the different types of assets, because I know I could get some of these assets. I know for a fact I'm valuable. And I know for a fact that I could obtain something on this list of assets. You feel me? So when I looked at these list of assets, I just wanted to study list of assets to see which things on this list of assets could I get, could I accomplish, could I obtain quickly, because I needed some assets in order to have some value so I can exchange and make some products and services happen and adjust some things in this life. Okay? And that's what cracked this whole thing open, and I started to see this whole world. And I'm here to say that I realize any man, woman, or child got the right to document their own assets, to have their own assets, to evaluate their own assets, to establish their own net worth lawfully. Then I realized those assets that they create are lawful and capable of being exchanged in these systems legally, should be exchanged in all the systems. I studied systems for 20 years thus far, 22. Going on 22 years. Money systems, finance systems, negotiable instrument systems, societies, rules, regulations, promissory notes. I'm talking reading private placement memorandums, municipal bonds, reading constitutions of different nations, all to attempt to get a grasp for why am I in this situation that they call poverty? How is all these people that I love and they seem like good people? These are people that got something to offer the world. Everywhere I go is people that got stuff to offer the world and want to offer the world these things. Yet this idea of the dollar and them not having this one type of United States dollar, in my situation, I was in the United States of America, is preventing them from their value being exchanged openly and evenly in order to create the types of societies and the realities that people pray and wish for. I'm like, how could this one United States dollar be getting in the way or be the only thing that's required for this? So throughout research and even the United States system, I realized that most all systems allow for all forms of negotiable instruments to be utilized to pay for things lawfully. Then I realized, even though it's lawfully, it's most of the fiduciaries in these trust relationships we got different relationships where we give other people and other beings rights, right? So if you go to the bank to handle your banking affairs, then the bank has the right to handle your banking affairs. They're going to utilize the system that they got the right to use, right? And they may not have the right to use the system that you want them to use. They might have the right, but then they may not have you listed as the age of majority. You might be considered a minor to a lot of these institutions and entities. So they take advantage of that and utilize your assets how they see fit. Seen a lot of that happen. And as I did research, you know what I'm saying, into what are these assets that I could get access to, I start to see that these are some of the most powerful assets known to man. So right now, real quick, let's just look at a complete huge list of assets. So the United States has a United States Standard General Ledger of Accounts, I believe. So yeah, you got the United States Standard General Ledger. So this opened up a lot of realizations for me, because I'm like, again, you got to know what was my goal. My goal was to look for assets that I actually have access to, so that I could interact in commerce efficiently and I could get things done. Okay, why is they running me around it? The rabbit hole, USSGL.pdf. Let's see if I can get to this. United States General Standard General Ledger. Okay, so this isn't it either. I really want us to look at these list of accounts, chart of accounts, okay? That's what we're looking for. So I was looking for assets that's on the list that I could actually have access to, right? I don't know why it's taking me so long of a search to get this. Because I realized once I get a list of these assets, once I get the assets that I need, then I could get shit done. Okay, here we go. So I start researching assets, and this is the United States Standard General Ledger Chart of Accounts. So if you're in the United States at all, United States of America, or you're dealing with United States of America business, or you got a United States person or companies that you're dealing with, and you want to understand of how things are accounted for, you can see here in the 100 codes, you got a list of assets. Got to pull me up some OT. So I want to look at these assets, right? You got 100. This is the chart of accounts. Everything that starts with the 1 is an asset. Got assets. Here we go. Fund balance with the Treasury. If you have a fund balance, if you got a balance with the Treasury, it's an asset. Fund balance with the Treasury under a continuing resolution, it's an asset. Cash assets. You got receivables assets. There's many types of cash. Undeposited collections, impressed funds, U.S. debit card funds, funds held by the public, other cash, international monetary funds, exchangeable stabilization fund assets, other monetary assets, foreign currency denominated equivalent assets, uninvested foreign currency. These are all different types of cash. Okay, and I'm like, dang, what type of cash can I get around this mug, man? What's an other monetary asset? You know, I started looking for some of these terms, like, okay, what are these terms? And how can I obtain them and or draft them or create them? Because I started seeing that a lot of paperwork was the original source for a lot of these funds. Okay, so that it took me down a path. Receivables are assets, right? These are all assets. Receivables. So when somebody owe you something, you got the right to collect something. Accounts receivables. Okay, allowance for loss on accounts receivable. So if you lost, you had some accounts receivables and you weren't able to recover that, you got allowances for the loss. You know, interest receivable from loans, interest receivables from investments, interest receivables from taxes, interest receivable not otherwise classified. So if you got some interest in something that's receivable and it ain't even got a classification, there's a classification for it, right? Allowance for loss and interest receivables, loans receivable. These are all assets, y'all. Assets continue. Receivables, many different receivables, inventory and related property. Okay, inventory, seized monetary assets, forfeited property, foreclosed property, commodities, stockpile materials, other related property, investments, y'all. Investments continue. All these different types of investments are assets. Assets continue discounts on foreign investments, premiums on foreign investments are assets. General property, plant, and equipment, these are all assets. Land and land rights, improvements to land, buildings, other structures, internal use software. So software that you create to use internally is an asset. Leasehold improvements, equipment is an asset. Other structures and facilities, and these are assets that get you a debit or a credit. You understand what I'm saying? And you, by having an economic value to all these assets, receivables from appropriations, all of these are assets. So you can get the picture here and see that there's a lot of assets. Oh, debt is not an asset here. Nevertheless, Debt is a credit in accounting. Okay, so this opened up a wormhole of amazing wealth mindsets, mentality came through me looking at these types of charts and saying, oh, what's going on? Oh, everything is either a credit or a debit. That sounds like money to me. So everything is either a credit or a debit. And it's cool to understand what's the title of these different things. Because we're past assets. We're into liabilities here. Look at assets. Assets, you can have debits or credits, right? A mixture of debits and credits on all these assets. You can see debits, credits, a nice healthy mixture. Some are debits, some are credits. You see what I'm saying? And you cross over to the liabilities world, and you looking like you raining credits. It looked like it's raining credits in the world of liabilities. Credits, credits, credit, 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 credit. And debt is liabilities. I'm like, hold on. It's starting to open up some shit. Got me asking some questions. This is the world we living in. This is the world we living in, y'all. Where liabilities is credits. All these different types of liabilities, y'all. Contract holdbacks. I seen contract authority as an asset somewhere, y'all. But as I was scrolling through this list, I didn't see it. But that really popped my mind open too. When I saw contract authority, like the authority to enter into contract as an asset listed on here. Now, I'm not going to be scrolling up here just to try to find. I mean, I am scrolling to try to find it. Nevertheless, we can Google that. Contracting authority is a term used to refer to an entity. Okay. Contract-related assets. Okay, so a contract asset is an entity's right to consideration in exchange for goods or services that the entity has transferred to a customer. Okay. Contract authority liquidated by appropriation scenarios. Contract authority is unfunded and a subsequent appropriation or offsetting collection is needed to liquidate the obligations. What the heck, Becky? Bureau of Fiscal Service. Contract authority is unfunded and a subsequent appropriation or offsetting collection is needed to liquidate the obligations. So it's saying contract authority is needed to liquidate obligations, or offsetting collection is needed to liquidate the obligations. Okay. Contract authority liquidated by appropriation scenario. Okay, contract authority means specific statutory authority that permits an agency to incur obligations in advance of an appropriation of the cash to make outlays to liquidate the obligation. So it's authority to incur an obligation before you got the cash for the obligation. So that is worth some money, y'all. And that's some shit. It's comprised of two authority types. Definite contract authority, where a law provides a specific amount of authority that cannot be exceeded, or indefinite contract authority, whereas the amount of authority is not predetermined and authority is available as needed to cover obligations incurred. So you got to have some contract authority in order to be covering some the obligations, and that's deep too. So as you can see, we entering these terms in the world of money. Okay, here we go. I went all the way there. Contract authority started popping up on us right here. Contract authority is worth some money, y'all. And you can evaluate this contract authority. You got appropriations to liquidate contract authority withdrawn. Current year contract authority realized. That means the contract authority you actually utilize. Substitution of contract authority decreases in indefinite contract authority. Substitutions, right? Contract authority withdrawn. Contract authority liquidated. We liquidated the contract authority. We withdrawn the contract authority. You can liquidate some contract authority. That's a credit. It's money in the bank, y'all. Y'all seeing the game of money that's being played all around our foreheads right here. Do you see that this money in this account and this authority and all of this is literally like paper and ideas and theories that's real? It's not real. People talking about money ain't real. Oh, it's very real. Matter of fact, in Brazil, money is called real, right? Real, R-E-A-L, real. It's very real. Portuguese, I think they got that from the Portuguese. Portuguese is called real as well. The thing about this is, this system of money is very real, and as I start to get some excitement in me, knowing that, hold on, I got contract authority. I got the authority to enter into contracts. I got the authority. I got a lot of these lists, a lot of things that's listed on this general accounting asset list. I have the ability to do and or I have right now. So I start realizing, hold on, I'm wealthy. I got this and I got the ability to enter these. I got to understand this system. I got to get an understanding of this system. And I start to realize that it's things like security entitlement, financial assets, accounting, knowing how to account, knowing that these financial systems are nothing other than accounting systems, seeing how I could gain access to financial systems, or I have my own accounting system, my own financial systems, my own bookkeeping systems. And that's what trusts can do. You can do with trusts. You have your own accounting systems, your own bookkeeping systems to manage the interests of your own assets or the assets of the beneficiaries that you have. That's why trust becomes so important. And having the right to have your choice of law. Like with this trust, we're going to utilize the laws this way for these benefits of these beneficiaries, right? And you get to look at all of these concepts we still got to go through some more concepts. We're going to go through this some more just to go in depth about what all of this is and how this could be utilized in your daily life. How is it being utilized right now already? These financial assets and liquid assets and securities, entitlements and trusts and payments. How's all this stuff happening with the payments, and how is debts getting discharged, debts getting extinguished, payments being made and values being transferred? I know a lot of times we find, and a lot of people find people with sauce who give them solutions. There's no solution without these systems. There's no solution without a system. And it's key to understand these systems, because then you get to get your own sauce created. You get to create your own sauce because you understand the system. You get to use the system how you see fit. And that's what sauce is, utilizing the system for your benefit. Right? So with all that being said, let's take this thing to the next level. Before we take it to the next level, though, commercial break.
Are you tired of being subjected to rules and regulations that do not serve you or your family? Are you willing to go against the grain in the name of wisdom, freedom, family, honor, and trust? We provide simple solutions to complex problems. Take control of your own affairs in life. Tribe Up with Tribes and Trusts TV.
On our mission now, your time is up. Took us 400 years, had to size you up. Our word is born, no more dividing us. We now know what to do with all these tribes and trusts. I'm overseas with these tribes and trusts. Don't need no other keys but these tribes and trusts. Frequency sovereignty with these tribes and trusts. Watch me get families free with these tribes and trusts. Overstepping your boundaries, I balance you. I'm bona fide, fuck a challenger. Sent the revocation certified, fuck a manager. In control of my soul, fuck a handler. All these assets that's held for the tribes and trusts. Prophecies get fulfilled with the tribes and trusts. Heard they get out of jail with the tribe and trust. Fuck around, get you nailed for the tribe and trust. On our mission now, your time is up. Took us 400 years, had to size you up. Our word is born, no more dividing us. We now know what to do with all these tribes and trusts. I'm overseas with these tribes and trusts. Don't need no other keys but these tribes and trusts. Frequency sovereignty with these tribes and trusts. Watch me get families free with these tribes and trusts. Tribing up, we 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 tribing up with these tribes and trusts. We tribing up, 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 we tribing up with these tribes and trusts. We tribing up, put the tribe in the trust, manifesting this wealth with the tribe and trust. Resurrecting myself with these tribes and trusts. Ancestors left us these tribes and trusts. The people is wising up, yeah. Free all the guys from cuffs. Tribes and trusts, rising up with tribes and trusts.
You heard the Mansa. Tribe up and take care of your own affairs in life. Your life depends on it. Your future depends on it. Your family depends on it. Establish your family tribes and trusts with Kiel Mansa, founder of Love Nation American Indians. If you need advanced or rush services, schedule a consultation.
Okay. So yeah, tribes and trust, man. We just got to a nice place of this conversation. And now we're finna take it to like literally looking at the property and the financial property that trusts deal with, okay? Let's take a look. We see all these different assets. The trust would deal with all of these assets. We looked over the United States General Accounting Ledger. The goal of a trust and the fiduciary of the trust is to be able to manage and handle the affairs of the beneficiary for the benefit of the beneficiary and to manage those assets that was given by the grantor in a way that's for the most benefit of the beneficiary. And if you even just look at the United States General Accounting Ledger, these are lists of different accountable items, okay, that end up being credits and or debits in the financial system. And it's key to look, what we're realizing is that this is accounting for activities and situations. And it's key to see that any and all situations can be accounted for in some way, shape, or form. In accounting, let's look and see what the definition is accounting real quick. All right, because I mean, I'm definitely going to, as we continue, I'm going to be more organized with the way I put these tabs, because I was just going over a few things before I came up here, and that's where the tabs came from. So before, let's just look at, again, we looked at type of assets already. I ain't gonna lie here. That just slipped my mind. I have no idea what I was just looking up at, because I'm looking at this and I'm like, man, I got so many tabs open, start thinking about a few different things. But let's look at the different, let's look at the different paperwork that trusts have to deal with, right, real quick. So most of these documents we're going to learn are negotiable instruments. Most of the value that a trust is dealing with is a negotiable instrument. So let's look real quick at what is a negotiable instrument so we can start to understand the different accounts that trusts deal with, that you deal with on a daily basis already. You feel me? So negotiable instrument is a signed document that promises to pay a specific person or assignee. In other words, it is a formal type of IOU, a transferable signed document that promises to pay a bearer a sum of money at a future date on demand. Well, to me, that is one type of promise to pay, a promissory note. Okay, but there are some that's an order to pay. That's a negotiable instrument as well. So, but a transferable signed document that promises to pay or orders to pay a bearer a sum of money at a future date or on demand. Common examples of negotiable instruments include personal checks, cashier checks, money orders, certificates of deposit, okay, travelers checks, and things of this nature, right? All right. A negotiable instrument is a signed document that promises to pay the money, okay, transferable, and some examples are checks, money orders, and promissory notes. This is general, okay? They are transferable. That means you can have it and you can transfer it to someone else. You can present it to someone else. You could exchange that to someone else, right? All right. The amount listed on the document is the specific amount promised to be paid, right? It must be paid in full, either on demand or at a specific time. The negotiable instrument can be transferred from one person to another. And I'm here to say that contracts are negotiable instruments, because a lot of people have contracts. I promise to pay you X amount of Z after you do X, Y, and Z for me on a certain amount of date in the future. That contract is a negotiable instrument. These documents, okay, they provide no other promise on the part of the entity issuing the instrument. Okay, okay. In addition, no other instructions or conditions can be made for a bearer to receive the amount listed on negotiable instrument. Okay, for an instrument to be negotiable, it must be signed with the mark or signature by the maker of the instrument, the one issuing the draft. This entity is known as a drawer of funds. Okay, so examples of negotiable instruments again here: money orders, travelers checks, right? And a lot of times when we hear these things, we thinking that typically these are things that since in a lot of people's lives they've only been receiving these things or seeing these things, getting these things from institutions like banks and things of that nature. Yet I'm here to say that private entities can issue those, trusts could issue their own items and things of that nature. Let's take another look here, because that was so general that it didn't help us realize how many things are included in negotiable instruments. Let's look at the United States Code. It provides an interesting, and the UCC, if we don't know, the Uniform Commercial Code is a code of commerce that was utilized in order to, synchronize the commercial activity that's handled throughout nations. So it's other levels of depths that you can get into when you study in negotiable instruments. And I recommend any person do that. Look at the Uniform Commercial Code, research negotiable instruments. I'm here to say bonds, promissory notes, warrants, bills, tickets, all of these things are negotiable instruments, right? And contracts, all of these, all of these things are negotiable instruments. They're mainly governed by statutory law, but some could be governed by common law, depending upon the contract, by private law, depending upon the issuer. Every state has their own UCC code, right? So every state of the Union in America has adopted their own UCC, and a lot of countries and republics throughout the world have their own form of implementing negotiable instruments law. Okay, UCC defines a negotiable instrument as an unconditioned writing that promises or orders the payment of a fixed amount of money. So it's like, I promise to pay you $75 million US dollars. Bow. That's a promissory note. I promise to pay you 85 million francs. That's a promissory note. I promise to pay you 65,000 Chinese yuan. That's a promissory note. I promise to pay you 1675 million, euros. That's a promissory note. I promise to pay you 6.5 trillion. That's a promissory note. All of these things are promissory notes. Literally. It's an instrument that promises to pay the money. You got CDs, certificates of deposit are notes. Drafts and notes are commonly used in business transactions to finance the movement of goods and to secure the distribution of loans. And that's what we're talking about here. A lot of people got to see drafts and notes are utilized to finance the movement of goods and to secure loans. That's responsibility of the fiduciary and the trust as well, right? You want to make sure that you allow that beneficiary to get some products or some services, right? Get some shit. You want to get some things in life, right? How do these things get received? Well, it's through exchange, right? Exchanging of products or service. What's the role that the negotiable instrument has? It is something that promises to pay, that it is showing that compensation will be received. You feel me? Something that an equal value will be received. And what is that something? The promissory note itself. So what happens is you got this commodity, you got eggs, water, clothes, houses, cars, and you want that to be given. I got my car. I'll hook you up with that. I myself, I'm going to want to get something of equal value, right? I'm going to want to get something. And in prior to promissory notes and bills of exchange and commercial instruments, I would have to receive what I want. I would say I would have, okay, I might not want to receive $1,000 worth of your eggs. Okay, I give you $1,000 car or horse. I might want to get $1,000 worth of wheat. You might not have $1,000 worth of wheat though. So you ain't gonna get my $1,000 worth of this, because shit, I don't want to just be having no wheat running around. So the idea of negotiable instruments came through as a medium of exchange. Money is a medium of exchange. People say money is not real, but money is very real. It serves a purpose, and this is a purpose, right? So say I got this thing, it helps trading and bartering happen, right? It helps the exchange of products and services and energies. So boom, I got the car, or I got the cup. I don't want to give it to you because you don't have the thing that I want to receive in exchange. You feel me? I might, back at the crib, we need some heat or whatever. So I might want to get a heater for this or get some firewood for this. You ain't got no firewood. You just talking about you got oranges. I don't know. I ain't going to rock with that. So how could this exchange happen and I could still get me some firewood? Well, what happened was the invention of negotiable instruments, the invention of money sources, third-party mediums of exchange. So say I'm that person who has the wheat, right? I have my wheat. The person with the wheat sitting there, they want to get the $1,000 car. I come with the $1,000 car, like, hey, boom, here go the car. But I'm trying to get me some firewood. The person with the wheat say, hey, you know what? Check it out. I have this $1,000 worth of wheat. I'm the owner of this $1,000 worth of wheat. Here goes my evidence that I'm the owner. I create this title. I'm the owner of this $1,000 worth of wheat. Now, what I'll do is I'll use this title as collateral for my promise to pay you. Meaning, I'll promise to pay you. I promise to pay you $1,000, the $1,000 you want. And I'll keep this promise. This promise is good to anybody. I'm promising to pay them $1,000, okay, but worth of this wheat. I'm going to give them the wheat. This $1,000 promise right here is good for wheat. If you ever come back to me with that promissory note, with that piece of paper, that negotiable instrument, I'll give you the $1,000 worth of wheat. If you don't want the wheat today, maybe you want it in the future. Okay, or maybe you do want to go get your firewood. Just take this promise to pay to Bob, and I know Bob, he likes wheat. You give it to Bob, Bob will give you the firewood, or you can give it to somebody with some firewood, and they'll take it because they may know somebody who wants some wheat. You see what I'm saying? So they'll take it, give you the firewood. Now they'll be able to take that to somebody and maybe trade for some chickens or some apples and oranges. Let's just say that, some apples and some oranges. And at some point though, somebody's going to want $1,000 worth of wheat, and whenever they want that wheat, they'll be able to bring that promissory note to me. So that's how medium of exchanges operate. They operate best when there is some product or service that's underlying the issuance of it. Meaning there's a product or service, a commodity, where they say, hey, I provide this product, I provide this service, and I have X amount of this product or service, right? It's worth 16 million. I'm going to create 16 million promissory notes and negotiable instruments that I can give out, and it's all backed by my $16 million worth of products and services. And people are going to be utilizing this because now people was able to utilize these mediums of exchanges, and you can still now utilize these mediums of exchanges to transfer for products and services. And as long as these medium of exchanges can consistently be transferred, then people are good. You can, now it's like magic. The person doesn't have to have what I want specifically for me to give them my product or service. I'll give them my product or service. They give me that promissory note because I know I can take that promissory note to a vendor that's local to me or around here that has the product or service that I want, and they will exchange that. And in order for that system to really operate efficiently, most efficiently, these negotiable instruments need to be accepted everywhere. Now, if this negotiable instrument is not accepted by my person, then it's an issue. And now we got the game of financial systems, banking, and access to money came into play. And that's a mouthful. So, but that's a simple understanding right there of the fact that how do negotiable instruments operate. And just to back that up, let's look at what money of exchange, a medium of exchange is again. Money is a medium of exchange. But it's any medium of exchange. That's what I'm going to say. Any medium of exchange. So is money. So here we go, medium of exchange. In economics, a medium of exchange is any item that is widely acceptable in exchange for goods and services. We mean it's widely acceptable in exchange for products for goods and services. Now we're getting somewhere here. Now you got these negotiable instruments that's widely acceptable, okay, in exchange for products and services. Yet I'm here to tell you the way that this world has been set up a lot of times is you got your negotiable instruments. So say if this is right, Kiel, why haven't I been able to just walk into the bank with my negotiable instrument? Or why can I go to somebody and give them my promise to pay $1 million and they just give me their product or service, their shoes? I go get some shoes, I go get some clothes, I go get some cars. Why can't I just walk around? Well, the truth of the matter is that it's technically lawful for you to do this. Nevertheless, for something to be widely acceptable, there has to be a certain level of knowledge, and there has to be a certain level of access to systems for clearing and settling those certain mediums of exchange. And that's when we're dealing with financial systems, banking systems, and trust systems. Let's explain. Right now, throughout the international world, I'm here to tell you that the laws are here for your regular piece of paper, promissory note, to be able to be exchanged. The laws are here because you just be accounting. Yet what system you utilizing to exchange that value determines a lot. Like if you're utilizing the Federal Reserve System, now you got to go through the Federal Reserve rules for how they deal with mediums of exchange, who is the clearing and settling agencies in that system, right? I'm not going to get too advanced here. We leaving the super advanced stuff for those who want to get in that level of depthness, yet just know these truths. Know that there's different financial systems and there's different payment systems. And sometimes people deny your access to certain payment systems, and if there's certain vendors that you want to access and they only respect certain payment systems, then they may not be so quick to receive your negotiable instruments. Now, that's real. I don't want to, it just brings up so many topics. I'm like, how deep do we want to go in here? Hey, let's get deep. Let's go there. Let's go there. So what's that about? That's about your right to discharge a debt. That's about your right to offset debts and stuff. So let's go look at what am I hinting at? What am I getting at? We're getting at private banking, y'all. Now, private banking is a general description for banking, investment, and other financial service provided by banks and financial institutions, primarily serving high net worth individuals. Nevertheless, they say high net worth individuals are individuals who, got $1 million in assets and more. You may have $1 million worth of assets and haven't documented them and don't know it and acting like you're poor. That's possible. But I'm here to tell you that private banking and financial services are accessible to you and others. These trusts that you can set up, that people can set up, can engage in these services of financial services, okay? It's a form of wealth management, right? Okay, so banking as a sense of banking, in the term of banking, it is an early Venetian system, okay? And this is European and English, all right? So let's real quick think about it. Every bank and every banking system has a clearing and a settling compartment. Clearing and settling is the process for when you receive in different forms of payment, you to receive them and for you to allow the value that they have to be entered into systems and exchanged. I'm here to tell you that banking systems such as the ACH banking system, Swift banking system, these are all systems that's connected to your debit cards and credit cards. So your debit cards and credit cards, and I'm talking like this because most people exclusively utilize these systems. You know, in your ACH network, your Swift network, your local Federal Reserve has a payment system that you more than likely are utilizing. If not, you're utilizing a private banking system or your own bookkeeping system. Now, if you got your own bookkeeping system and it's not a part of the domestic system and you need to exchange your value to that system, your value is foreign to that system. If you gave that system a foreign document, it's a foreign bill, a foreign note, okay? You're dealing with foreign currencies, all right? That's the situation, all right? Let's talk about financial assets real quick because this is what we're talking about. All these securities are financial assets. At some point, they become financial assets, right? You got securities that become financial assets. That's what I'm here to explain because all of this comes from the medium of exchange. We said a medium of exchange is any item that's widely acceptable in exchange for goods or services, right? Also finna let you know here that trust funds in estate planning, they are literally sometimes referred to simply as trust. That's when you take some funds and you involve multiple parties. You got a grantor, again, the beneficiaries. You say, hey, I got these funds. I'm setting it up in this trust for the benefit of this beneficiary. So you may have negotiable instruments, bonds, stocks, you know, certificates of ownership, evidence that you own different types of things. And you might say, okay, these are the assets that I'm putting into trust, and I'm going to put these assets into trust specifically for the benefit of this being, and that's trust funds, all right? And you got marketable securities. They are financial assets that can easily be bought or sold on the public market. You feel me? So what's a financial asset? And then you got security accounts. These are what? Accounts to which financial assets are in, and the financial assets can be credited in accordance with an agreement. Okay, and now you're talking about money and being able to pay things here, right? So you got, and you remember, and this is all documentation. So you got documentation, okay, underlying assets that's documented. They interest in those assets are documented. They securities. Now you can have a security entitlement in a financial assets, okay? And these things have to be moved around through clearing and settling. And we know a clearing corporation is a person in this situation is a registered person, right? Under federal security laws, yet clearing and settlement is a process that any clearing and settling agency could do through a security intermediary. Let's look at what a security entitlement is. Security entitlement is the rights and property interest of an entitlement holder. So if you got rights and property interests and you're an entitlement holder, then you have a security interest. What's an entitlement holder? Okay, entitlement holder is a person identified in the records of a security intermediary. Now, security intermediary, remember, okay, a security is a document that evidences ownership or rights. Okay, you got a document to show you got ownership or rights in something, and you take that document and you give it to somebody to manage for you, that's your trust, maybe your trustee got it, then your trustee in that situation is your security intermediary. Security intermediary is, they can say it could be a clearing corporation or what? A person, including a bank or a broker, that in its ordinary course of business maintains a securities account for others and is acting in that capacity. A securities account is what? So you maintain a securities account. Remember, security is pieces of paper that shows that you got ownership or rights into something. Security account means an account to which a financial asset is or may be credited in accordance with an agreement. So a financial asset could be credited to an account, then that's a security account. I'm here to say that securities entitlements become securities assets. Okay, become financial assets. Financial assets, right? It is what? A security. So, boom, a security is a financial asset. Or so you talking about you need some financial assets? People say you need to get your assets up. Well, maybe you need to get a security. A security is what? Documentation that show that you got rights. Documentation that show that you got interest. Documentation that show that you got ownership rights. Show you that you got ownership interest into some type of asset. And we've seen that there's all types of assets, right? So this is interesting. You might need to get your paperwork game up, is what they're saying. You need some financial assets. You need to show that you got some rights, some ownership interest into some things. You see what I'm saying? I'm going to take a quick 2-minute break for y'all to chop that up and think about that for a second. I'm going to put up on the screen, just keep this financial assets right up on the screen for a couple minutes while I feed the birds. And then we're going to get into what? We're going to get into clearing and settling of these documents, because that's what these documents are. How do you take these documents? How do these documents end up paying the bills, y'all? Because that's what's happening in the banking system, in the financial system, whether it's happening privately through paperwork and the hard copies, or whether it's happening in a digital monetary book entry only system and some shit like that. Okay. Hopefully you're getting somewhere. Hopefully you're getting somewhere here. Hopefully you're getting somewhere. Hopefully you're seeing something. Hopefully some realizations is getting, starting to see some of these dots get connected. I recommend y'all check out the Uniform Commercial Code. Look up into this a lot more, because, it took years of me understanding and understanding these processes. I'm providing a condensed version right here that's very important, though, right? So we're starting to see that these assets are evidences of rights, all right? And even paying something like communicate means to send assigned writing or transmit information by a mechanism agreed upon the person. And when you transmitting information and communicating something or presenting something, I'm here to say that that's like payment. Okay, and we'll get into how that is possible, right? Entitlement order means a notification communicated to a securities intermediary directing transfer or redemption of a financial asset to which the entitlement holder has a security entitlement. So this stuff is where it gets interesting, because in our life, we attempted to, a lot of this is interesting because access to products and services, access to wealth, access to things, access to getting shit done has been put into the hands of third-party intermediaries like banks and government agencies, and they are acting as trustees and administrators in situations. And are they operating in our best interest? Are they properly accounting for all of our value? Are they properly accounting for our entitlements that we hold and our security entitlements? Are they properly clearing and settling instruments on behalf of us? That's something to think about. And if not, then maybe you, in the formation of your trust and your fiduciaries handling business on your behalf, is the best way to go. And you can start to redeem and register your assets and make your claims and receive your credits. As you can see, all them credits that was stacking up in those asset columns, so you can get to discharging and extinguishing some debts and paying off some debts. So before we talk about extinguishing we're going to talk about right now: clearing and settling, discharging, extinguishing, and paying and transferring value, because that's payments, that's money, that's getting shit done, that's making sure you can get some shit done. What's going on in this world for us to be able to get some shit done, period. All right, so let's look at clearing and settling, just the general terminology. Clearing and settling, the clearing and settlement process. Okay, so clearing involves comparing transaction records, verifying account balances, and ensuring compliance with regulatory requirements. Settlement, on the other hand, consists of moving money, and we realized that money was what? Anything that can be used to exchange value. And we learned that negotiable instruments are mediums of exchange. Any generally accepted medium of exchange is money. So settlement, so clearing is, I'm looking at the books, I'm verifying the records, I'm ensuring that it's complying with whatever requirements it has to be complying with. And again, based upon your jurisdiction is the requirements that it has to require. It sets the regulations. Settlement, on the other hand, is moving money between financial institutions. So taking these certain negotiable instruments, taking these certain evidence of these instruments, and updating the balance, notifying the payer of the payee and the payee that the transaction has gone through. So making the transaction, adjusting the account balances, and ensuring that the parties know that the thing has occurred. Okay, now a lot of times, now in order to clear and settle, you're using financial systems. You're using different financial systems. Okay, so you got private and you got public systems. So just look at financial systems. I'm here to tell you that you got ACH network. You feel me? So a financial system is a set of global, regional, or firm-specific institutions and practices used to facilitate the exchange of funds. So you can have all types of financial systems. You feel me? Let's look at the worldwide, a list of global financial systems. Let's see if we can get a list here. Right? Because at the end of the day, it's the financial systems that we're dealing with that determines how, when, and if these securities and negotiable instruments and money and forms of payments will be cleared and settled. You understand what I'm trying to say? And what's important with a trust is when the trust is the fiduciary and the tribe is the society, then you get to set your rules up for how you're going to go about exchanging, clearing, and settling your payments, even with foreign jurisdictions, in accordance to international law. Nevertheless, if you simply a domestic entity within a domestic entity, then you're following the rules and regulations, you feel me, of the agency that you within. Okay, I was trying to see if they was gonna give a list. Well, I'm here to tell you that in every country you have a central securities depository, and you have a financial, and you have a federal banking system. And let's just look at this. It says the global finance system is the worldwide framework of legal agreements, institutions, and formal and informal economic action that together facilitate international flows of financial capital for investment in trade and finance. Okay, so you got different finance systems, and I'm here to show you. Okay, you got the SWIFT network. Check out the SWIFT network. Let's just go through some stuff. I'm just gonna give you some answers. So SWIFT, the Society for Worldwide International. Here, this is their website. Y'all can check that out. SWIFT network. Let's go to Wikipedia to get a quick overview of what they are. Right, it's a cooperative established in 1973 in Belgium. Okay, it's owned by banks and other member firms that use the service. It provides messaging network through which international payments are initiated. Remember, we saw communication, the word communication. Okay, this is financial telecommunication, because remember, a medium of exchange, money is any medium of exchange that's used, anything that's used as a medium of exchange. And these days, financial messaging is used as a medium of exchange as well. You have the ability to digitize these notes, right? Because there's only promises to pay, right? It's a promise to pay or order to pay a specific amount of money. That's really what's going on. And to communicate that, you can communicate that digitally. And when you communicate that digitally, that's called a financial transaction. Now, what's the source of the funds, right? Source of all funds is negotiable instruments in the value that is inherent in these securities. That's the source of the value. And that source of value comes from some assets, right? Or some rights or interests that you have in some assets. So I got rights and interests in some assets. Bow. I document that. That's a credit for me. I promise to pay somebody something. The evidence of that is a debt, but that's money. The evidence of that, the evidence that I promise to pay is I promise to pay. That the evidence will be a piece of paper. That's called a promissory note. That's money. The evidence that I order to pay somebody some money is called a money order. I ordered you to pay somebody $50,000 for me, because that's what a money order is a trust relationship. I'm ordering one party to give another party something for me, right? I order you to give this person $30,000. That's a money order. And the communication of that, when you communicate that, the physical evidence is a money order. There's money. Now, when you do that digitally, that's a financial message. So in these digital systems, ACH networks, SWIFT networks, right? And these different networks, these are the digital, modern day digitalization. And these are some networks. You have all networks all over the world. Okay. The modern ACH network has been continually advanced since its inception. Okay. It's open for payment processing almost 24 hours a day. Y'all can check out the ACH network, which is the network that operates throughout America. You go to nacha.org. All right, check that out. They'll show you the ABCs of ACH. That's a network that banks and financial institutions get to operate in. Okay. You got a couple networks. So you say the ACH is the National Automated Clearinghouse for electronic funds transfers. It's all about the electronic funds being transferred, and they are electronic. Okay. And at the end of the day, it's all about bookkeeping systems. Not for small business, but bookkeeping systems. Because bookkeeping systems are finance systems. I just want you to see very simple definition, man. We ain't trying to get too deep. I just want you to see how, like, what's the simplicity of these systems that we're dealing with. So you got the SWIFT system, that's an international payment system. You got NACH, NACH, that's the national payment system in America. And all countries have it. They have their national payment system, and then you got an international payment systems, right? So you got bookkeeping systems are technically defined as single or double book entry software systems that are programmed with a set of rules that are specifically for recording financial information and various financial transactions that occur in businesses. So you're recording financial information and making sure financial transactions happen. That's what banks are. That's what financial systems are. That's what trusts have the right to do as well. You got single entry and double entry. Throughout America in the Federal Reserve System, you have double book entry accounting systems that's utilized, right? Central entry systems, which are most commonly used in small business where the entity does not have many transactions. They say it's informal, right? The system will record the cash disbursements, sales, purchases, and also cash receipts on accounts receivable. The basic single entry system will only report to one single account when any transaction is recorded, hence the name. While the central system is simplistic for those who are inexperienced, it can present problems when you start to balance accounts or construct financial systems statements, because now you got to find out what was the effect. Every in accounting, everything has a cause and effect, right? So for instance, if I have this in accounting, I have a lighter. Remember, now this will help us realize it. Money is just records. Money is a medium of exchanging value, right? So I have a thing though. This lighter, say I gave the lighter to the table. The table is the receiving party. I am the presenting party. Now, how I would document that in accounting is there would be an account. There would be two accounts. I would have an account, right? that say lighter cent, right? The lighter is the asset. Then I have accounts receivable, accounts payable, right? You understand what I'm saying? So the accounts payable, I done paid out the lighter. Boom. And paid out the lighter. Now in this person's accounts, they would have an accounts received. You feel me? They received the lighter. So the desk is the thing. It has an account called lighter. The lighter was received. Boom. So it receives a credit. I pushed it out. So I got a debit. It's been debited. So I got a debit. The lighter sent out. It's a debit. Bow. And now in that to document it, I would put the lighter sent out. They would say the lighter received. They received it. It's a credit. They received it. It's to them, a credit. Now, what's interesting is because we're counting, we put economic values to these things. So we say, okay, about what's the value of this lighter? I would say, okay, that's about $5, say $2. So it's $2. Now it's $2 sent out. You see what I'm saying? So now it was $2 sent out. And then in their books, it was $2 received in the account called lighters receivable. In my account, lighters payable, boom, paid out $2. So that's where money comes into play and how it relates to the item. You feel what I'm saying? And that's an example of a double book entry system and why there's 2 entries with every transaction. Okay? And then even within my books, I would have 2 transactions because I got what? I got that lighter sent out, but now I got something that's receivable because based on double book entry, every time something goes out, it's a universal law, something must come back equal. So if I ever give something out, I deserve to receive something. And how that would happen is once I gave that lighter, that table in this situation, it's a strange situation, the table received it. Now I got lighter receivable. To balance its book, it may issue what is called a receipt, right? So we say a receipt of the fact that it has received that. It may give me a receipt. Now I got receipt received. You see what I'm saying? Now when I received that receipt, that's a credit to me. So I got a receipt received that is equal to the value, is $2 worth, is equal to the value of the item that I gave out. And now my book is naturally balanced. The book is naturally balanced at all times in double book entry accounting systems. And in a table situation, it would have what? That received credit of $2 in the form of lighter received, and then that $2 debit in the form of receipt issued. You see what I'm saying? So the books are balanced, everybody happy. And then when you really think about it, this is a trading and bartering system that's now allowing people and beings to not have to necessarily exchange a commodity with a commodity due to the inventation of these negotiable instruments and then the further inventation of these accounting systems. And then it take it from being explicitly physical with the physical paperwork to now digital, whereas you don't even need too much physical paperwork. They got e-bonds, e-notes, electronic stuff. You got cryptocurrency that could be utilized as mediums of exchange to evidence exchange of values and all types of things that are utilized these days. So I hope that helps us understand accounting and how the double book entry and the single entry and then also understand financial systems. But I would say here, let's talk about security depository. Okay, every country has a central security depository. So how does this, because we talk about how does these paperworks end up being money? Okay, central security depositories, they are specialized financial market infrastructure. They hold securities like shares. They hold all securities. Okay, it allows brokers and financial companies to hold the securities at one location where they can be available for clearing and settlement. Let me explain how this goes. throughout the world, in order to facilitate international transactions, in order to facilitate international finance, because when I issue a note, it could be called a Kiel note. Say a Kiel note. You issue a note. Say your name is Mike. It's a Mike note. Or your name is Jane. It's Jane note. Or your name is Susie. Susie note. Or your name is Cynthia note. Right. So you can issue your notes. Your notes called Cynthia notes. My notes called Kiel notes. Right. Or say the United States issue notes called United States notes. Federal Reserve issue notes, they call Federal Reserve notes. If Nike issued a note, it's called a Nike note. You see what I'm saying? A state issue a note is an Illinois note. So you got all these different notes. They're foreign to these different jurisdictions. In order to allow the exchange of products and services to move smoothly within a jurisdiction would establish a way for foreign exchange. So that means if I want to have all these different types of bills and payments to be able to be utilized in my system for the benefit of the beneficiaries that's operated throughout this situation, then I would set up some type of foreign exchange mechanism where these different forms of bills and notes and promissory notes that's issued under different jurisdictions could be accounted for properly, right? And if I have a central depository institution, more than likely I have my own note that I'm going to exchange that for. For instance, what will come in the central security depository is a whole bunch of different financial instruments, financial assets, securities, notes, and bonds from different jurisdictions. Boom, they put them on an account. What will come out of that central security depository is one centralized note, one centralized bill. So say in the United States depository, you're given all types of things. Yet what do the United States issue? They're going to issue you some United States notes. And then within their jurisdiction, everybody's dealing with, for the most part, those United States notes. And it helps to simplify the usage of familiar forms of money. Nevertheless, even within a domestic market, there are ways for international payment mechanisms to be utilized. Hope we're understanding this, man. We got central security depositories. Let's read over this real quick. Central security depository, okay? Their scope, they can be national or international in nature. It may be for a specific type of security. So these are places where you want to be able to liquidate and exchange securities, right? A domestic security central securities depository. Many countries have one domestic central security depository that was traditionally associated with the National Stock Exchange. These organizations are typically heavily regulated by government and may or may not have been separate from the exchanges when trading. International securities central security depository settles trades in international securities such as euro bonds and other things, right? They can also establish links with local central security depositories. An example of these international central security depositories are Clearstream, Euroclear. Okay, now we're getting into some stuff, right? Because most money is flowing through Clearstream, Euroclear. Okay, in the United States of America, they're dealing with the Depository Trust Company, right, which is one of its major central security depositories that the United States utilizes in order to clear and settle these securities. And what clearing and settling we're seeing is the receiving it, looking at the accounts, and making sure the money gets sent to the different persons. And what we have to note here is that in these systems, money is what money is, what money is, which means a United States note equals whatever the equivalent value of euros equals whatever the equivalent value of all these different systems, right? So foreign exchange just allows one type of currency to be exchangeable for another type of currency so that products and services can be exchanged no matter what the source of the funds is and what's the destination of the funds. And in these situations, when you have a clearing and security depository in a financial system, what's important, what it allows for is the vendor or the person who's going to be receiving the money at the end of the day, they're going to be able to receive the type of money that they used to receiving that's capable of being exchanged in a local market, no matter what the payment was from the person who receiving the service. For instance, say you're receiving the service from, and you're in fucking Thailand. Say you're in Thailand and you want to get an American product. You're going to use your Thailand dollars, right? And you're going to send those dollars to your banking institution or whatnot. Nevertheless, your banking or your trust is going to end up sending that say you have a financial asset, monetary asset, negotiable instrument, stocks and bonds that you're utilizing. That's going to be sent to the Central Security Depository. Say you have a money order here. That's going to go to your bank. Your bank's going to take that and send it to a Central Security Depository, but it's going to issue you more than likely a digital, its equivalent value in digital form. Now, your Central Security Depository has that as an asset. Now, as far as that transfer going to the United States of America, whatever financial system they're utilizing, United States of America is not necessarily into the SWIFT system, right? The United States of America is going to be utilizing its own system, but it is part of the SWIFT network, right? So you would more than likely enter the ClearStream, Eurostream, or whatever your security depository is in Thailand in that situation, right? They're going to issue a payment message to the facility in the United States of America, which is through FedWire. Now, when they get that message, the message has the value of the asset. So that message is going to say United States dollars. Once it gets into America, it's not going to say Taiwan dollars. They're going to register it as the value of that local currency. Now, that's how that works. Value, it just automatically transmutes to another medium of exchange when it enters that market. That's just how it works. No, period. So these security depository agencies form an important role. And what we're here to say is that this responsibility that this clearing and settling agency has, as well as this responsibility that those payment entities have, the trust company could have in agreement with the beneficiaries. This could be a responsibility that it has based upon its agreement. And now it has the right to utilize these different financial systems in order to satisfy the need for its beneficiaries to clear these payments. Okay, that right comes through an obligation, through the contract that it has with its beneficiaries, right? So let's talk now about why is all these payments moving around? It's going around to extinguish and discharge debt. So in contract law, because most of these, the necessity to pay somebody, it comes through an obligation, and that obligation comes through a contract. So in contract law, extinguishment is the destruction of a right or contract. So if somebody got the right to collect something from you, you could say you no longer have the right to collect that from me because it's been extinguished. You can extinguish that debt by many ways, by making the payment, by giving them something of equal value, by sending a transaction here. You see what I'm saying? Through a clearing and settlement of a security instrument. If the subject of the contract is destroyed, then the contract may be made void. Extinguishment occurs in a variety of contracts, such as land contracts, debts, rents, and right-of-ways. A right may be extinguished by nullifying that right, or in the case of a debt, discharged by payment in full or through settlement. So you can discharge a debt by payment in full or settling a debt, right? So if you want to discharge now, this is just, there's so much evidence of this stuff everywhere. I'm just now explaining, like I can tell you right now that debts are discharged anytime you presentation or communicate effectively the fact that value has been exchanged and sent. Anytime you transfer a financial asset to a third party, then that third party has received the value of that financial asset. And if you owe them a certain amount of economic value and you present them a negotiable instrument or financial instrument that's equal to that financial that value that you owe them, then the debt is no longer lawful debt, it has been extinguished. It is null and void. It has been discharged, right? And settlement is also possible if somebody say they owe you. Well, if you owe, if you owe somebody and then you show evidence that they also owe you a value that's equivalent or greater, then it has been settled. That offsets each other. It's an offset of debts. Then that debt has been distinct is extinguished. Okay, no longer in existence. And let's just look at a few things. Let's just to put this term into reality. Let's just go here. Discharge of negotiable instruments, means and types. Okay. They talk about India here. It's the same all over the world, though, man. I'm telling you. The Negotiable Instruments Act of 1881, significant law in India concerning financial transactions. It regulates documents like promissory notes, bills of exchange, and checks, which are essential for smooth business operations. So promissory notes, bills of exchange, and checks. They good and essential for business operations. Understanding how to properly discharge such instruments is essential for business to operate efficiently and fairly. It ensures that parties involved in financial transactions are protected and disputes can be resolved according to legal standards. Essentially, the act establishes rules that provides clarity and security in commercial dealings. So they got different acts throughout the world in different countries that enforces this right. The right for bills of notes and promissory notes and negotiable instruments to be utilized in order to extinguish debts. Matter of fact, you got the international unitrial, like the United Nations. You got the United Nations Convention on International Bills of Exchange. Then in America, you got bills of exchange, acts, promissory notes, stacks, acts everywhere, all over the world. You got bills of exchange acts and promissory notes acts because this is something that's widely respected. At the end of the day, the money that you use to utilize it ain't nothing but a promissory note. All right. So if you look at this United Nations Convention on International Bills of Exchange and International Promissory Notes Act, it'll show you specifically a method of drafting international bills of exchange and international promissory notes in order to lawfully discharge debts and to facilitate international exchange, okay, of products and services. I'm going to tell you, this is something that, okay, all signatory countries, all countries that sign this, they lawfully must enforce this. Now, if they don't enforce this, then they breaking the law, and then you got to go and get on their heads. That's something that people have been doing throughout America consistently lately and throughout the world, throughout England. And, sometimes that's what the courts are for. You got to go to court to enforce some rights. Sometimes you done paid off something, they acting like you ain't paid off. Sometimes you got some value, they acting like you ain't got no value. And then that's what the courts are for. It just so happened in this world, it came to a situation where there's so much deceit and so much ignorance that people have been able to profit off of the ignorance of people so much. And a lot of individuals aren't enforcing their rights, to whereas, individuals, institutions, financial institutions, individuals and agencies that have got fiduciary trust relationships and become administrators, they're, totally like neglecting their responsibilities and handling business in a way that's not beneficial to the beneficiaries, because the beneficiaries acting like they don't know the laws and the rules and the regulations. And if they don't, then it just leads for ability for the system to be misused by the trustees and the administrators. Okay. And that's what's happening a lot of times. But as we can start to see, as we do some research here, that the extinguishment of debt is something that you can do, and it happens consistently by presenting negotiable instruments in order to pay things off. All right, so let's just look a little bit at extinguishment of debt. You got claims that you can have that can be extinguished. Okay. This stuff gets real deep, man. This stuff gets real deep. I ain't gonna lie, y'all. This stuff starts to get real deep, man. So I'm not gonna be able to get it. Well, I could if I wanted to be in this mug for like 87 hours right now, but I'm not gonna get into deep about everything and how this affects all different areas of life. Yeah, I will tell you to take it upon yourself to research extinguishment. Research this thing, what extinguishment is. Research what the word debt is, okay? And I'm just Googling, so you just this is what's going on. Research what the word payment means and look at many different sources. Make sure you're looking at the codes, the Uniform Commercial Code, right? Uniform Commercial Code. Wow. Because this is a code that's utilized nationally and it's enforced a lot internationally. As we just looked at the international bills of promissory notes, I tell you to look that up and read that up, you know, so you can get a better understanding how you can operate your trust and lawfully make payments on behalf of your beneficiaries. You know, you can register their assets, claim their assets. That's what the name of the game is. Registering the assets, claiming the assets, property utilizing the value of the assets to discharge debts and pay things off, and protecting the assets and protecting the properties on behalf of the beneficiaries, y'all. That's what this is all about. And it gets very interesting because these days, right, you have to know that this is lawful, this is occurring. And even say like in America, I would tell you also, you know, to get into looking at the collateral, like acceptable, look at the acceptable forms of collateral for different countries, right? Because these, when you're talking about acceptable forms of collateral, right, then you're talking about things that could be utilized in order to get other things in exchange. So in every country, they got dollars. They got United States dollars in the United States. The United States dollars are issued and operated with the Federal Reserve. So if for individuals and entities and financial institutions that want to receive United States dollars and they got other forms of collateral, other forms of security, other forms of negotiable instruments, then they have to get established with the Federal Reserve collateral program if they want to receive United States dollars in exchange, right? And they'll show you, and this is how every country works. Okay, you can find out what they acceptable forms of collateral is, and you can see here the acceptance criteria for securities. They're telling you here all the different types of securities, and we talk about what securities are, securities and negotiable instruments that they're willing to accept, okay, for in exchange for United States dollars. And then they're even breaking down the asset type here, the eligibility standards, and any additional information that you need to know about these certain assets. And I'm telling you, they're getting deep. It could be about bills, notes, bonds, right? Government-sponsored notes and bonds, U.S. Treasury notes, foreign government guaranteed security notes, foreign government agency securities, supranational securities, corporate bonds. These are things that they accept in exchange for United States dollars. These are acceptable forms of collateral. Okay, German jumbo notes, municipal bonds, asset-backed securities, collateralized debt obligations, collateralized loan obligations, asset-backed mortgages. These are these words. Google the words, research the words. You'll realize that these are different contract structures. Okay, just different ways to structure contracts. Non-agency residential mortgage, commercial mortgage-backed securities, trust preferred securities, certificates of deposits, bankers acceptance, commercial paper, asset-backed commercial paper. You know, me, I'm the type of person that hey, I'm like, how can I get these things? Do I already have some of these things and just need to document that I got them? You feel me? What's going on? And then they tell you through which intermediary they accept it. Like these things, they accept them as long as they pass through the DTC. These things as long as they pass through the DTC. These things as long as they pass through the DTC. So you know, who is the DTC? Remember, we just seen that you have centralized security depositories in every country. Then they also have these central security depository countries. That's what the DTC is in America. And they're saying that the Federal Reserve, as long as these certain things are pledged with the DTC, they're capable of being utilized as effective collateral for the issuance of United States notes. Now they also, well, for Federal Reserve notes, and they also down to take stuff from Clearstream and Eurostream, right? Clearstream and Eurostream. So you can see the connectivity between these different central depository institutions and agencies, right? And that's it. You can see how that works. You want to get too deep, keep on studying that, right? And this is all relevant to trust because, you know, when you are a trust and you have assets, you might have some of these forms of assets for your beneficiary, and you want to go and liquidate them or get them entered into a different market because you want to do some business in that certain market on behalf of, for the benefit of your beneficiaries, right? And that's real, right? And so you start to set up some of these accounts. And it's cool for people to realize that, like, bank accounts, financial accounts, security accounts, it sounds deep, but what is an account? It's a report or a description of events. It's when you document it. Again, this is about accounting. This is about describing. This is about reporting. This is about taking notes of situations. And as we've seen and we kind of start to notice, situations have economic value due to your assessment of their economic value, due to your method of evaluating these economic value of situations, of events. Then you can account for them, come up with accounts, a way of organizing these things. Okay? It could be reports and descriptions. That's accounts. A record or a statement of financial expenditure or receipts. When you consider or regard something in a specific way, I account for it like this. You know what I'm saying? So this is the science of accounting, is the science of moneying. Okay? That's very important. So we done went over a lot here. And these are concepts that as a trust, you will start to think about. This is helping you understand the world that trusts operate in, the world of negotiable instruments, the world of money, the world of financial systems, the world of clearing and settling negotiable instruments, the world of understanding how all that works. And it's depths and layers and layers and layers to this, y'all. It's a lot of layers to this that you can get into. It's a lot of layers that you could, you know what I'm saying, say, hey, I tap out. I'm just going to have my trustees handle this business for me, or just let the current governments consistently administer how they've been, as long as you're happy with the way that they've been administering your rights and your obligations. Because as we see, rights and obligations is the source of money in this world, in this system. That's very, very interesting, without a shadow of a doubt. Now, let's look at a trustee relationship that's very interesting throughout the United States, we could say, right? And I wanted to get into current money, what's foreign currency. Well, let's just check that out too, because a lot of times, say you issue your currency, your own private currency, that's foreign currency. That's foreign to another agency, right? That's foreign to another place. Foreign currency is currency used by a foreign country as its recognized form of monetary exchange. As long as you got you a country set up and you issuing, you know, what is a country? What is a country, y'all? A nation with its own government occupying a particular territory. We learned a nation is any social compact, a group of people that handling business on behalf of themselves and their peoples, and they got some rules and regulations for how they gonna handle that business. And a country is also considered a district or small settlement outside of large towns, cities, and or capitals. Like, you know what I'm saying? So let's not get this twisted. Right now, we're thinking of countries, and most people only think of the countries that they see on the map. But the country can also be districts and small settlements outside of large towns. And large and districts and small settlements can issue their own currencies. There's more definitions, I guarantee. An area or region with regard to its physical features. So it could be any area, any region. You see what I'm saying? It could be a region associated with a particular person, especially a writer or a particular work. Okay, you can say, hey, it's Kevin country. And you're talking about the land you own. You feel me? Kiel country, Mansa country. You feel me? Love nation country. There is no prerequisite for the size. There's no prerequisite for the amount of persons for there to be a country. There's no prerequisite for the amount of people for there to be a nation. There's no prerequisite for it to be a large development for it to exist. And there is no prerequisite for others to say that you are something for you to be that which you are. These are some interesting concepts. So foreign currency is currency issued by a foreign country as its recognized form of monetary value. Okay, that's very interesting. Now here goes an issue paper that's about balance of payment statistics, currency union. You can establish some currency unions, unions where people are saying, hey, we're going to utilize this currency. You got the monetary union of Eurozone, like the Eurozone. You got, for instance, the United States of America. That's a union. Multiple states, which are nations, multiple states are agreeing to utilize a certain monetary system. So in a currency union, one currency is issued, which is legal tender in the union's member countries. That's what the United States is. They got all these member countries. And then the United States go in and make different currency unions with other foreign countries. But nowadays, a lot of these foreign countries are saying, fuck the monetary system of the United States of America. People such as BRICS are establishing their own monetary systems. And then you got domestic Indians and domestic tribes that still held captive to their sovereign financial systems according to law. Okay? However, from the point of view of individual member countries compiling their own balance of payments, this distinction must be less clear, as the currency can be issued jointly or separately by the nation's central banks of member countries' decentralized model, or issued by the currency union central bank. So you can have central banks or decentralized central banks. And if you have a country or a nation or a tribe that's truly sovereign, then you got your own central bank. You got your own securities depository institution. You got your own centralized notes. You got your own method of securing and clearing that. Let's go into further classifications and show what Indian country is. Indian country, right? Aboriginal country, right? And it is any of the many self-governing Native American or American Indian communities throughout the United States. We're talking about the United States. Okay, they state that the tribes are domestic governments that are federally recognized. Well, federally recognized tribes are domestic to the sovereign. So they're under the sovereign. They don't got their own central bank, central security depository institutions. I don't know if they are capable or lawfully able to do that. The recognized tribes. Unrecognized tribes, or they are still self-sovereign. They're operating, and they just might not got the blessings and the wishes and the benefits from the federal governments. And let's look at this. Let's look at why this is important. Because a lot of tribes or families or nations, that's the birds, y'all. Give me 1 second. I'll be hooking them up with some stuff. I gotta go get some more stuff to feed them in a second. They got a little bit out there. But check it out though. What we got here is the Bureau of Indian Affairs. So most of all this land right now, most of all this land throughout America, check out what they say. The General Allotment Act divided tribal lands and led to many unintended consequences, including the dramatic reduction of the amount of land owned by American Indians and Alaskan Natives, whatever. Many years later, the federal government established the trust process in an effort, the trust process, we're talking about trust. What is a trust? An effort to help tribes regain lost land and promote tribal self-determination. So think about it. The federal government is administrators for the tribal land of those tribes who got the right of self-determination throughout the Americas. They got the right. Yeah, when they become federally recognized, they saying that they can't manage their right on their own. They need the government to do it for them. Most tribal lands today are trust lands, which are under control of tribal governments. So if it's a trust land under the control of the tribal government, then the tribal government is what? The trustee, the legal title owner. Okay? But does that give them the beneficial ownership? If the United States government is stating that they are the sovereign, something to think about. Currently, there are 56 million acres of land held in trust by the federal government for the benefit of American Indians and American Natives. There's 56 million acres of land held. And they saying fee land versus trust land. We're going to get real deep. They saying fee land is under complete control of the under, which can be an individual or an entity such as a tribe who hold the title to it. Fee simple ownership is the highest form of property possession. The owner can use the land for any legal purposes. Man, y'all, we're going to get into this later about fee land, feudal land, and how this is all the highest law. This is the highest land in their situation because they got the property and they don't even own the property outright. They holding it for a monarch, who, the crown that's holding it for the royals to return the proper heirs. We ain't gonna get that deep, but we just gonna let you see here. There's 56 million acres held in trust. That's a trust relationship by the federal government for the benefit of who? American Indians and American Native communities. Okay. They talking about there are many benefits to trust acquisition for tribes. They talking about these are the benefits that you get. Okay. But I'm here to say, fuck them benefits. Get your shit how you supposed to get your shit. I ain't necessarily saying fuck them benefits. I'm just here to say that there's other means and methods, right? Federally recognized tribes. Okay. There's federally recognized tribes. Here goes a whole list of federally recognized tribes. So federally recognized tribes, first off, they Native American tribes recognized by the United States Bureau of Indian Affairs as holding a government-to-government relationship with the U.S. federal government. So they're going to let them get a government-to-government relationship, but they also consider them domestic. Okay, if you saying that, hey, I'm a tribe, we Aboriginal, we tribesmen, and we ain't going to be underneath y'all Bureau of Indian Affairs, they don't consider you civilized. They don't consider you civilized. And they may or may not allow you to establish a government-to-government relationship with them because they perceive that they are the superior according to how they operated. You might have to go over their heads. I heard they had a king of the bench court. Heard there's a privy council. I heard if all else fails, there's international councils. I heard if all else fails there, you got the right of self-determination. And you got the right to do what you do. So it says the Constitution grants the U.S. Congress the right to interact with tribes. The Supreme Court of the United States warned it is not that Congress may bring a community or body of people within range of its power by arbitrarily calling them an Indian tribe, but only that in respect of distinctly Indian communities, the question is whether to what extent and for what time they should be recognized and dealt with as dependent tribes. You see that? So for what time, the question is to what extent and for what time they shall be recognized and dealt with as dependent tribes. So federal tribal recognition grants the tribes the right to certain benefits and is largely administered through the Bureau of Indian Affairs so that they can be recognized as dependent. They still dependent tribes. That's not the same as independent tribes. Okay? We ain't gonna get too deep into that. We're gonna cover a lot of this stuff later, a lot of the depthness later. Right now, we're talking about trust properties. You feel me? We didn't cover a whole bunch of that. We pretty much done wrap this thing up. We can get deeper, but I just want y'all to know right now. A trust is, let's wrap this up. A trust is a relationship where a grantor or a settler provides legal title and other rights to the trustee for the benefit of the beneficiary. Trusts are important, and they were established initially. And think about why they were established initially. A lot of noblemen and kings wanted to get rid of the feudal responsibility that they had to the monarchs. So they said, hey, we gonna say we ain't even owning this property. We gonna get a property to a trustee to manage on behalf of the third or the beneficiaries. and we're going to give it to the trustee who doesn't have the same responsibility of feudalship to that feudal lord that we do. So in order to neglect some responsibilities legally, they ended up creating these trusts. Nevertheless, what happened inherently with that structure, that provides some protections against creditors, right? So say nowadays, that same reality could be utilized for people and parties and individuals and families who perceive that they have a need to register their assets, protect their assets against third parties who may be attempting to come against them as creditors. And there's a way of totally protecting those assets. And then also for individuals and entities who are seeing that they want to have a fiduciary or have a fiduciary established so that they could deal with business on behalf of them for their benefit, whether discharging some debts, extinguishing some debts, documenting their assets, assessing the value of their assets, registering their assets, having their accounts in order, bringing to life a lot of the value that they have, a lot of the assets they have, documenting their value. I'm here to tell you that you're valuable. I'm here to tell you that you are a multi-millionaire more than likely. If all of your assets could get documented, your intellectual property, your thoughts, your ideas, your uniqueness, your character traits, a lot of these assets you have, a lot of notes, promissory notes, bonds, the ability to create, a lot of things that you've already created, art, deeds that you've done for people, things that you've done, services that you've rendered, services that you can render, things that you own, services that you own like inventory, just like products that you own like inventory. A lot of this stuff you got right now, if you're watching this, a lot of this stuff you got and you've had for a long time, and a lot of this is worth a lot of money. And by documenting that property and registering your securities and registering your assets and registering your financial assets, property in trust, in private security accounts, not necessarily by regulated brokers and things of that nature. You can go that route too, but I'm here to tell you that you got the right to have your trust. You got a trust established from the beginning of the world, as soon as you were in existence. You feel me? Trusts have been established for you consistently over and over and over. Property has been granted and gifted to people to manage for your benefit over and over and over. And right now, looking at this from your life, you can say, hey, I got the right to document my value, to document the securities that I have, to take account for these things, and to have a fiduciary properly discharge my debts, properly extinguish debts, properly buy things for me, invest on my behalf, and things of that nature. Protect my assets for me and or my family and my family. You got the right for family trust. And when it comes to family, you got the right to define that how you see fit, not necessarily how they see fit in their taxonomy and their zoology, but in your system, in your family structure, in your sovereign system, in your spiritual system, in your family's system. You got the right to document what family means to you, who you mean to you, and what a trust is, and what your assets are, and how you're going to account for them, how you're going to deal with them in the foreign jurisdictions and your domestic jurisdiction. That's for real. Tribes and trusts. We ain't never playing no games around here. That's for people who got ears to hear, eyes to see. Check it out. That's some real shit.
Are you tired of being subjected to rules and regulations that do not serve you or your family? Are you willing to go against the grain in the name of wisdom, freedom, family, honor, and trust? We provide simple solutions to complex problems. Take control of your own affairs in life. Tribe Up with Tribes and Trusts TV.
On our mission now, your time is up. Took us 400 years, had to size you up. Our word is born, no more dividing us. We now know what to do with all these tribes and trusts. I'm overseas with these tribes and trusts. Don't need no other keys but these tribes and trusts. Frequency sovereignty with these tribes and trusts. Watch me get balance free with these tribes and trusts. Overstepping your boundaries, I balance you. I'm bona fide, fuck a challenger. Sent the revocation certified, fuck a manager. In control of my soul, fuck a handler. All these assets that's held for the tribes and trusts. Prophecies get fulfilled with the tribes tribes and trusts. Heard they get out of jail with the tribe and trust. Fuck around, get you nailed for the tribe and trust. On our mission now, your time is up. Took us 400 years, had to size you up. Our word is born, no more dividing us. We now know what to do with all these tribes and trusts. I'm overseas with these tribes and trusts. Don't need no other keys but these tribes and trusts. Frequency sovereignty with these tribes and trusts. Watch me get families free with these tribes and trusts. Tribing up, we 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 tribing up with these tribes and trusts. We tribing up, 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 we tribing up with these tribes and trusts. We tribing up, put the tribe in the trust, manifesting this wealth with the tribe and trust. Resurrected myself with these tribes and trusts. Ancestors left us these tribes and trusts. The people is rising up, yeah. Free all the guys from cuffs. Tribes and trusts, rising up with tribes and trusts.
You heard the Mansa. Tribe up and take care of your own affairs in life. Your life depends on it. Your future depends on it. Your family depends on it. Establish your family tribes and trusts with Kiel Mansa, founder of Love Nation American Indians. If you need advanced or rush services, schedule a consultation.